Maybe he sent someone.
See him or his,
Is this it here coming through?
no, that's our new person.
Do you want me to ask that? Is there a representative from Head Start? Okay.
Oh, there he is, right there.
You got it?
Not him. Okay, not him.
You want me to just ask that? You want me to just ask that? Is there a representative here from Head Start?
No, we'll just, if we get to it and there's nobody here, we'll just move on, okay?
What? I need to know that. Is there a representative here from Head Start? We have such a nice crowd, we aren't able to see.
Great, thank you.
Okay? So the answer is no?
That's right.
All right. We need to call the public meeting to order. I need a motion to reconvene.
Madam Chair, I move to reconvene in open session and adopt certification of closed session.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ms. Golson?
Certification of closed session. Whereas the Dinwiddie County School Board has convened a closed session on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and whereas paragraph 2.2-3712 of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by this school board that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now therefore be it resolved that the Dinwiddie County School Board hereby certifies that, to the best of each member's knowledge, only such business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the school board. Dr. Elaine Pearson, District 1.
I certify.
Dwayne Walker, District 2.
I certify.
Barbara Pittman, District 3.
I certify.
Mary Benjamin, District 4.
I certify.
Jason Brown II, District 5.
I certify.
Thank you. At this time, would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Ms. Golson, do we have amendments to the agenda?
Madam Chair, we need to modify the agenda item 1. Sorry, item 2.01. We need to return to closed session after superintendent's comments for personnel.
Okay.
I move that we modify the agenda and return to closed session after the superintendent's comments.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? That motion carries. Personnel list.
Madam Chair, I move that we accept the personnel list as was amended earlier.
I need a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? That motion carries. Student matters. Oh, I'm sorry, hold on to student matters. We have some introduction of personnel.
Thank you, Ms.
She
Benjamin.
told me that 2 minutes ago and it went right out of my brain.
It's okay. We have two very special individuals from the personnel report that we'd like to introduce this evening. First, I would like to introduce to you Mary Peters, if you'd like to take a stand there. Okay, this is Mary Peters. Mary is going to be our new Director of Exceptional Education. She comes to us all the way from, what state were you? Nebraska. She heard about us in Nebraska and wanted to work in Dinwiddie County. The word does get out. She comes to us with a very broad background. She has a degree in Bachelor of Science in Education, both in elementary education, K-8, and in mild moderate disabilities, K-12. And she also has a Master's of Education and Administration. It's okay. We're all mamas and daddies.
That's right.
We all know how that works. So just put them on your knapsack. Bring them to work with you. That's right. We'll take them. And so she, as she's been working here in the state of Virginia, she has worked at. She was a director where she was previously, and in Colonial Heights, she worked as the director of support services there. She's worked both at the elementary level and the secondary level, so she does come to us with a broad spectrum. And right now, she's working at Henrico Public Schools. So we're so happy that you decided to join our team. And I'm assuming this is your family. She talked a lot, so welcome, Dad, because this is a family affair. So welcome, Dad, and your children. So very nice family. Thank you so much for coming to join us. The second person that I'd like to not introduce, but just share with you this evening, I'd like to have Danielle Hawkins. Please stand for us. I'd like to introduce the new principal of Sunnyside Elementary School to you, Danielle Hawkins. So Danielle, her career's been here with us, right? She comes to us, she has a Bachelor of Science degree in Liberal Studies. She did teach English for us, I think, when she first started. A Master of Science in School Libraries, so she's been a media specialist for us. And most recently, she has been working at the middle school as part of the Dreams team at the middle school. I see that your daughter's very proud of you right there. She's very proud of Mama. And so we're just so pleased. Comes with a lot of background. And when I went over to talk with her, Dr. Walker, you would have think I was telling Dr. Walker that she was getting some type of promotion, because she was crying and so proud of her, and just so we're just so happy that you going to join the Sunnyside team and go back home. She lives in that community. That is her community, and so just so proud to be able to lead at Sunnyside Elementary School. So thank you. And her husband is here. Her husband's here getting everything on video. He's over there. Wave to everybody. He's there. And her daughter is there sitting next to her. And her other family member, Dr. Walker, is there with her as well. Yes. Her ride or die is what I do. That's right. That's right. And that's all I have this evening.
Thank you. It was wonderful news for both.
Yes.
Welcome to our community and to our family of educators. Next on our agenda is Student Matters.
Madam Chair, I move that we uphold the recommendation of administration and long-term suspend student number LT-05/24-1.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Next matter.
Madam Chair, I move that we modify the recommendations of administration and long-term suspend student number E-05/24-1.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? And the third one?
Madam Chair, I move that we uphold the recommendation of administration and long-term suspend student number LT-05-24-2.
I need a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Okay. Thank you. Minutes? Pardon me?
Expenditures.
Oh, sorry. Expenditure report. Mr. Brown?
Yes, okay. I move that we, trying to think of the word, I move that we approve the expenditure reports as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Thank you. And now the minutes.
Madam Chairperson, I move that we accept the minutes of April the 9th, 2024, and April 23rd, 2024, as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? And that motion carries. Before we go forward with recognitions, we are going to call forward the girls wrestling
I
team.
think it is the first recognition.
First the recognition? Yes. Mr. Tortorese.
Good evening. How are y'all tonight?
We're well. How about you?
Good. Just want to come down and talk a little bit about our program and let Coach talk about the program of the girls wrestling. We are, and we have been, ahead of the curve in this. The VHSL has adopted, I believe, in the last 2 years, made girls wrestling separate within the Virginia High School League. They have their own state championship. They have their own weight classes. And we're probably one of, I'd say, maybe 20 teams that has a full wrestling team within the entire state. So with that, we have exceptional girls, and Coach Rogerson is going to speak about them.
Thank you, Coach. All right, now I'm going to get used to talking to this while I can still hear myself in front of me. All right, so good afternoon. My name is Coach Rogerson. I'm extremely pleased to be here to highlight the achievements of our team, and specifically the two that are right behind me. And why did y'all line up like that? So like Coach Torrey said, in 2002, the Virginia High School League moved to adding girls wrestling as an emerging sport for the 22-23 school year. And we immediately went to work quicker than most, as most of you know, because most of you supported all of you. If not, I know all of you did. But over the next 2 years, we assembled a team of enthusiastic, diverse, courageous young ladies from all walks of life. We have volleyball players, we have softball players, equestrians, a whole mess of cheerleaders. Yes, your hearing's working just fine. I did say cheerleaders. Actually, it is half the team. Yes, I know it is. But we have soccer players, track and field athletes, and my personal favorite, ones who just saw the ad, thought it looked fun, and come and took the leap with us. So since then, we've wrestled in 3 different states, 2 of which already have established girls wrestling. And we've either placed in the top 5 or we flat out won the tournament in everything we've done, to include the state tournament this past season. It was not an official state tournament because we're still in emerging sports status. However, teams' points were still collected, and we edged out Woodbridge for first in the team points. So, thank you, and I know not many people here know how wrestling is scored or even conducted, but I'll give you the cliff notes really quick. We have beaten our opponents in every category possible: takedowns, pins, escapes, reversals, first scores, near falls, you name it. Anything you can figure out that you can measure in our sport, we have beat our competition. So needless to say, success could not have been possible without every girl, but especially, like I said, the 2 behind me. So here we have Amanda Walker. She's a 2-time state placer, and she's a 2-time Richmond Times-Dispatch All-Metro team wrestler. She went from brand new to the sport, placing 4th in the state her first year, to being a Virginia State finalist this year. So it's not for lack of competition either. I know everyone understands that it's a growing sport. She's wrestled many girls with more experience than her, state champions, national team members, teams from out of state, and she's rose to the challenge, separating herself as one of the top wrestlers in Virginia. She's also the president of the History Club, junior class marshal, member of the National Honor Society. She's a varsity volleyball player, and she currently sits 2nd in her class with a 4.6 GPA. And then over here to my right, I wanted to get pictures of them wrestling, guys.
I love it.
Yeah, so anybody can have a podium picture, but here's them doing what they love and what they know how to do, and better than most in the state. So here's Sydney. She's a 2-time state placer as well, 2-time Richmond Times-Dispatch All-Metro team wrestler. And Sydney came to us through our youth wrestling program, which is dominated by boys. And following her freshman year, where she spent the majority, I think it was actually all of it, you were filling in on our boys varsity lineup. She was understandably considering that her time in the sport was over after that first year. But that uncertainty changed instantly when we got the news that we were sanctioning girls wrestling and that we were going to start a team. Since then, she's amassed a 38 and 36 career record. She's broken and holds the current girls' school record for wins in a season and a career. Again, she's wrestled and beaten state champions, national team members, and she finished 3rd in the state this season. She's a junior, and she's a 3-sport athlete, participating in varsity soccer, sideline and competition cheer, She's a member of the National Honor Society, 100 milers, and she has a 3.7 GPA. So closing, also on the GPAs, our team GPA is 3.6.
Wow.
I did that today. So very proud of you guys for doing that. But we're tremendously thankful for the opportunity that's been given to us to compete, that's been given by everyone and supported by everyone in this room and in this county. We are very fortunate. Not many other teams and not many other places have this type of support. We will continue to boldly represent Dinwiddie as a leader of girls wrestling in the state and in the country. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you. That's so awesome.
Thank you, Coach Rogers.
It's awesome.
One of my favorite things, I mean, before they leave, if you haven't been to a wrestling match, when Sydney she hadn't done it as much, but one of my favorite things to do is sit in the stands when Sydney's wrestling a boy, because they turn her inside and out and upside down, and you think something's going to break, and I'm sitting up there half, scared that something's going to happen. And then 2 seconds later, she has them on the back, the place erupts, and she's getting ready for the pin. So that is one of the most exciting things that I do get to see. So,
awesome.
But congratulations, girls. Could we jump to the next one?
Girls tennis? Yes,
All
ma'am.
right. The second group tonight that we want to recognize is our girls tennis team. We have now a program with, emphasis on the word program. I believe Coach had 27 out this year, and that was a far cry from about 7 years ago. 7-8 years ago we started. I think my first year we had 8. So, I want to turn it over to Coach, but that program has come a long way. We've done great things and continue to do the same.
Cool. Well, if the girls would come on. I just want to say publicly that this, as Coach Tortorisa said, is a program, and I've been fortunate for the past 2 years to coach these girls. The year prior to that, I worked with the boys program. But this is a phenomenal group of young ladies who, just like the wrestlers, represent our county well, not just on the tennis courts and how they play tennis, but also in how they carry themselves. I have no shame in claiming them, and so I'm blessed by them every day. And Coach Tortorisa doesn't brag about it a whole lot, but I put some pressure on the girls because when I stepped in as the girls' coach, it was brought to my attention that this team had not lost a district tennis match in 5 years. And now we've lost 2 district matches now in 7 years, but if I understand the records correct, this is 7 years in a row that we've had either all or part of a district title. So that's the definition of a program, and a program doesn't happen without the tennis players. And so proud of these girls and what they're accomplishing. And this week they're going to take on Monacan, we think, probably. Monacan or Powhatan in the second round. They've already advanced to the second round of the regional tennis tournament for Region 4B. And we're so very proud of them. I have to say this, though, because I'm being allowed to talk about these girls right now, but I inherited the program. And what I inherited was I met a lot of coaches around Region 4B and throughout our district that already knew about our program and spoke so highly of Coach Tortorisa. This program wouldn't be what it is if it weren't for the work that he put into it. And I think this program is a testament to his work ethic and to his commitment to excellence. And also, I should say, to his understanding of the competitive sports culture. I think he is the right man for the job that he's in right now because he can take that same understanding and that same commitment to all of our sports. So I appreciate what you do, Coach Tortorisa, and proud of these girls. So why don't you guys turn around and let everybody look at you? I look at you every day.
I would like to add to what Mr. Walker just said, that you lost a Central District match earlier in the season, but played that team again and beat them soundly. So that's how come they are co-Central District. I think the second time was 6-2 or something like that.
6-3.
6-3, well,
5-2. 5-2. We didn't finish because of weather, but we had already won the match.
yeah, that's amazing. So But congratulations on your regional win, and good luck on your next one.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
No, so we'll go on. Have them sometime.
Okay,
She's just gonna move on.
okay.
Hello.
Hello.
All right, I have the pleasure of announcing the VSBA art winners. Local school board members were treated to an impressive display of creativity and faced some tough decisions in selecting the 2024 winners in the VSBA Southside Regional Art Contest that was held on March 7th, 2024. The students' art from the elementary, middle, and high school levels represented each school division in its competition, which was judged at the regional forum for area school board members. This VSBA Regional Art Contest was started in 1989 to promote the artistic talents of Virginia's public school students. Our winners were Lila Davis for participation in the 2024 Southside Spring Regional Forum. Lila was the second place elementary school winner. She comes to us from Midway Elementary. Is she in the room? All right. Our next winner is Molly Powell. Is Molly Powell in the room? All right. And I do believe Molly is from the middle school, Dinwiddie Middle School. Okay. And our first place winner from Dinwiddie High School, Kayla Dean.
Picture up there.
That's amazing.
All right. Would you like to say something? Sure.
Can I just come down?
Sweet. I just wanted to thank the board for choosing me as a winner. If I could have chosen any of my art pieces, it definitely would have been this one. This piece is very meaningful to me. It's a painting of my Mimi and my dad, who is with us here today, but sadly my Mimi is not. She passed away last year, and I did this piece as a memorial to her. And so it's very sentimental to me. And I also just wanted to thank our also past Miss Parks, who helped me create this and is very meaningful to all of us in the art department, and we miss her very much.
Thank you.
So talented.
Okay, go ahead.
fantastic music, and you're going to hear one more piece tonight that, as Ms. Brightline said earlier, first time we've ever done a combined piece of this nature all across the county.
And those were highlights of the DCPS Arts Festival. Next up, we will have George Burke and Emily Branch to come forward for our DCPS Homegrown recipients.
Here we go. Good evening, board.
Good evening.
Ms. Golson, Ms. Burnett, and Dr. Weston, Jonathan Amani, and everybody else in attendance. It's great to see everybody here tonight. There's so much to celebrate, and that's exciting. So in January, Ms. Branch and I actually brought to you the vision that we collaborated with Ms. Nivens, our Teachers for Tomorrow teacher at the high school. And it was an idea for really tapping into some of the extremely bright and talented students that we have at the high school. We've got a lot of students at the high school that are extremely bright. All of them have their own talents. And what we realize is that some of them want to pursue a career in education. And we need good teachers.
Absolutely.
So we said, what can we do? What can we do about that? Okay, so we, Ms. Branch, Ms. Zivitz, and I met. We actually started meeting back in August. And what we came up with was, and what we presented to you in January was the DCPS Homegrown Initiative. And let's see, clicker. Where's the on button? You got the on button? Thank you. So, well, maybe it needs batteries. There we go. So the goal of the program was to identify DHS seniors who aspire to pursue a career in education, and then to establish the framework to encourage and facilitate their return home to DCPS as teachers. And just as a refresher, we had some application requirements, and that was, of course, to complete the application in its entirety, to have a written recommendation from a Dinwiddie High School teacher, to construct and craft an essay articulating why that the student wants to become a teacher. And then they had to provide verification of acceptance into a post-secondary institution, which will eventually lead to teacher licensure. And so tonight, it's our privilege to present to you and recognize the first 3 students, okay, that will officially become part of the Dinwiddie County Public Schools staff, 2 upon graduating from high school here in 3 weeks, and 1 that is actually already a junior at Sweetbriar, and they will be the cohort 1 of our DCPS homegrown program. So I'm going to ask the following DHS seniors first to join Ms. Branch and I up front. and to be recognized. And then we're going to do something that I don't think's been done before. And we're going to have these students actually sign in front of you all and in front of their families their letters of intent to come back and teach here at home in Dinwiddie County once they complete their licensure requirements. So at this time, I'd like to call up Ms. Morgan Tucker. And Ms. Skylar Lewis. And then coming all the way from Sweetbriar this evening, which is all, well, I guess you guys are probably out by now, but Scarlett Rainey. So can we go back 2 slides? All right, so just a little bit about the accomplishments of each of these future teachers, starting with Morgan Tucker. Morgan, National Honor Society Sergeant at Arms, Principal Scholar, DHS 100 Miler Club Vice President, Chick-fil-A Leader Academy, SCA, FFA, Ruritines, varsity volleyball captain, and varsity softball 4-year letter winner, where she was first team all Metro, all region, and all state. And I can tell you personally about Morgan, I've gotten to know her this semester because she's one of my work study students at the high school. She is an excellent person, and we are going to be very, very lucky to have her come back and work for Dinwiddie County Public Schools. So Morgan, if you want to have a seat at one of those chairs.
At the very end of this.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect. Good orchestrating. Next, we have Ms. Skylar Lewis, just as impressive. Virginia Teachers for Tomorrow program participant. Skylar has already been enrolled and completed courses at Bright Point Community College in their early childhood education program. Random Act of Kindness Club. Student Organization for Developing Attitudes. Positive attitudes? Yeah, positive ones. Positive ones. Yeah. Yeah. Skylar was a principal scholar in grades 8, 10, 11, and 12. And Skylar's actually already started getting work experience in her career pathway as she works at Angels at Play Daycare Center as a child care provider. So we are very lucky to have you join our team in the future. Thank you. Yep. Want to see it?
And lastly, we have Miss Scarlett Rainey, who joined us through a more non-traditional route, being that she has already graduated from high school. However, she is currently enrolled in Sweetbriar College and has expressed interest in coming back to Dinwiddie County Public Schools, I would say, as her new home. Her mother has already found Dinwiddie to be home, as she is employed by us and sends us lovely emails and tips on a regular basis that help us perfect our craft and our job role. So the apple does not fall far from the tree. But Miss Rainey is experienced in serving as a tutor and a classroom assistant for English. She also has led various literary discussion groups as a facilitator. She notes here in her motivation to teach that she was motivated from a deep-rooted passion in both learning and teaching. And she has witnessed firsthand the impact that dedicated teachers can have on students, and she is inspired by that and wishes to follow in her teacher's footsteps. So again, we are excited to have you as well, Miss Rainey, and would like for you to join us here at the table.
So as these students prepare to sign their letters of intent, I also wanted to just mention that these students will all actually be issued staff emails after graduation. They are in the process of joining our substitute and our tutor list, and they will also be participating in our DCPS teacher professional development throughout the rest of their, well, all of college and the rest of your college career, including IDCPS.
I did forget to mention Scarlett has already served as the substitute for us, so she's already on the ball.
All right, so at this time, I would ask that you all can flip over your letters of intent. We did send a copy of them home with their invitation so they'd have time to review it.
Yes.
Yes.
All day long.
All right, let's have another round of applause for DCPS. Yep. Homegrown cohort number 1. Yep. And we'd also like to, of course, thank the school board and district leadership for supporting this critical initiative.
Thank you.
You can be seated now.
All right, next we will have our gifted and talented education recognition. And so, secondary gifted students under the leadership of Mrs. Courtney Massengill participated in Project POTUS, a national competition sponsored by the Benjamin Harrison Presidential Site. Students had to research the president of their choice and to create a 60-second documentary. Students had to use creativity and high-quality history sources, including a primary source, to create their documentary. Project POTUS represents 35 states and 3 foreign countries. For the 2024 contest, I am pleased to announce that we have one group which consists of one winner. The group is a group of 6th grade students. They were Cullen Nye, Braden Ellis, and Landon Perkinson. If you're here, please come forward. You would. Side by side, if you would. You can turn to the audience so they can see you. Okay. All right. So these young men worked together to create their documentary on William Howard Taft. And Bonnie, do you have it? Okay. Ms. Massengill, are you in the room? Yes, ma'am. Would you like to say something?
This was a national contest, and these children, the students, they worked so hard. They had to research their own president and then to come together as a group and collaborate together and work cooperatively. And hopefully we can get, it's only 60 seconds. It's not long. But they narrated it and they found it, and all of my groups worked well, but congratulations. Very proud of them.
Thank you.
Okay. If you would have a seat for me, please. Bonnie is going to work on trying to bring up the video, and I'm going to move on to the next recognition. Okay. If we can't bring it up, I'll make sure to share it on social media as well. All right, our next recognition is Outstanding New Teacher. So Dinwiddie County Public Schools Outstanding New Teacher Recognition Program. In order to be eligible, a teacher must be within their first 3 years of their teaching career, and they must possess or working towards a current renewable Virginia teaching license. The nominees must be teachers who exhibit superior instructional skills, interact exceptionally well with students, demonstrate excellent ability to communicate and engage with faculty, staff, parents, and the community, and they must contribute to the Dinwiddie County Public Schools core values, which are excellence, equity, and integrity. Teachers cannot nominate themselves. They must be nominated by a peer. And this year, I am happy to announce that on a secondary level, our outstanding new teacher is Alyssa Martin. Please come forward. Miss Martin is the school counselor at Dinwiddie High School. Next is, and please stay up here, Okay, all right. Our elementary education recipient is Allison Nagalba. Ingalaba, I do apologize. Allison Ingalaba, EL caseload teacher at Sutherland and Midway. All right. Would you like to say something? Would you like to say something?
I'm very proud of them and excited that they were selected.
I don't have them with me. Are they under there? Okay. Sorry about that. Here you go. Would you hand that to Alyssa? Allison? Congratulations, ladies. We'll take your pictures outside. Last but not least, we have our 2024 retirees. We had a wonderful ceremony last Wednesday, and it was a black and white formal theme. Hopefully, our retirees enjoyed themselves at this celebration. And so I will now recognize our honorees. Karen Bulfong, English teacher. She has 7 years of experience. When I call your name, would you please come forward? Deborah E. Johnson, paraprofessional, 8.5 years. Joanne Ellis, school nutrition specialist, 21 years. Sherry L. Pilgrim, paraprofessional, 21 years. Brenda P. Jones, paraprofessional, 23 years. Patricia S. Lewis, bus driver, 25 years. Penelope G. Parham, paraprofessional, 26 years. Yvonne E. Holcomb, paraprofessional, 28 years. Wesley P. DeBus, science teacher, 29 years. Daniel S. Rapp, school counselor, 20 years. Davis Roberts Jr., principal, 30 years. Laura Lamb, paraprofessional, 31 years. Alma D. Pilgrim, school nutrition specialist, 31 years. Sheila C. Morgan, administrative assistant, 31.5 years. Connie F. Brizendine, reading interventionist, 33 years. Randy D. Bullock, career technical education teacher, 33 years. Tina N. Dorsey, 4th grade teacher, 33 years. James M. Burnett III, music teacher, 34 years. And Mr. Burnett, I must say, you are very popular on social media, okay? If you get a chance, go back and check the comments from your former students. Angeline O. Hawks, exceptional education teacher, 34 years. Charles M. Jordan, bus driver, 34 years. Kimberly C. Taylor, 2nd grade teacher, 40 years. Ira David DeVault, registered nurse, 43 years. And Gail R. Martin, kindergarten teacher, 47 years. Together, they have a combined year of 5 years of 557 Dinwiddie County public school years and a total of 673 service years together. Congratulations again. Enjoy your retirement, and we'll get a picture out in the hallway real quick. Okay? Next up, special recognitions. Special recognition. Okay.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Mr. Blunt.
First, let's give respect to our board chair, to all board members, our superintendent, Dr. Weston, our student representatives. Every year, Dinwiddie High School likes to recognize individuals for what they do in the district, even though we know people are hired to do jobs. Sometimes things are overlooked or sometimes people are in the background, but we always want to pay special recognition to individuals for what they do and what they do for our school. So we call it the Dinwiddie High School DHS Hands-On Award. So this person, it's interesting, I think because of this person and this person's vision, whenever we need something, this person shows up. She doesn't ask a lot of questions, which we like. She just goes ahead and gets the job done. And because of her, we have actually more students and her vision and her staff and the vision for her staff. We have more students eating lunch in our cafeteria today. Our hands-on award goes to 2024 this year, Marion Elder, director. You gotta come with it. You gotta come with it. You do have to come forward. She has given us more ice cream this year than we can eat.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Amazing.
And before I do the next one, I do want to recognize all of my students because I am extremely proud of them. I don't get to see everybody individually every day, but I want to thank you all for your dedication and what you do, and for these adults and for these coaches who support them. I am very proud of you. I am very proud of you. Now, Ms. Martin, I don't know if I can do 47 years. She left, right? She left. Yeah, okay. And congratulations to everyone. Then this next person, I would say she keeps us on schedule. Well, me, I'll be personal. She keeps me on schedule. And there are times when I have to ask her very specific questions, but she always has the answers. Always. And this person is none other than Miss Bonnie Golson.
Oh.
I'll bring you up.
Yeah, she keeps us all.
So those are our DHS Hands-On Award recipients for this year. We appreciate you, and it's well-deserved. Thank you.
Well deserved. Excellent. Thank you. Southside High School. Southside High School is making a presentation. Southside High School alumni.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Chairman, the board, staff. I have to say the same thing about Ms. Golson as everyone else. She always helps us. On behalf of the Southside High School, the historic Southside High School Alumni Association, let me first thank the board and Dr. Weston for your continuing support of our activities and our programs. We want to thank you and encourage you to keep coming back to see us. I'll be brief. We have several events that we do every year, and I will say that we had a stellar year this year. Our annual event is the time when we get all the classes together to talk, and they don't let us have programs because they want to talk. They don't want to hear us. So that is where we just have a meal, talk, and enjoy it all. This past annual event, we honored and recognized all of the athletes from Southside High School. We have championship people, championship teams, and we wanted to honor them. I think that was Ms. Bonner's idea. And it was a great, so many athletes came out and they enjoyed it. That was an excellent program. One of my favorites is our Black History Month celebration. And this year we had Dr. Latoria Faison to speak. She is a PhD from Virginia State, And she had written a dissertation, which I read every word of, Miss Benjamin. And her dissertation was about the Southampton County schools and the integration of those schools and the impact on Black students who went from their schools to another school. And when I read it, it was very interesting. I could substitute the names of families in Dinwiddie. It was the same thing that happened. So I bought a copy of her dissertation if anyone would like to read it, because it's very interesting. So that was our Black History Month. For our child visits that are personally supervised by Ms. Bonner Yates, we had all of the 5th graders from the middle schools in Dinwiddie County. And this is our effort at preserving the history of Dinwiddie County in terms of Southside High School. And so we also have the visitors to take the students around, show them the school, give them the history. And I'm hoping we'll write a book one day, Miss Benjamin, about that history, because I think, well, I'm a history buff, and history is very important. So I'm very glad that we do that. We also have at Southside our museum, and I use the term loosely, but we call it our museum, and it is a series of cases that we include all of the pictures of the graduating high school classes there, and their memorabilia, and anything we can gather. And Ms. Golson facilitated putting locks on the cases, because there are things like high school rings and other things that we don't want to see walk away. So we want to thank her for that. But as I say, we use the word museum loosely in that. And I would just say again that we had a stellar year. One other thing, we also have a plan to do even more in terms of history. And again, I can only say, for me, I am very thankful for the support and your attendance at our events. We really appreciate that. So we look to see you in the future, and we'll let you know. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We typically pause right here for board comments, because sometimes people will stay in this part, and we'd love to be able to thank people and recognize people. So I'm gonna start with the student board members this time, so I won't forget you.
Well,
I have another one. Hold on. One more? Okay.
And we do want to show that, but we do have one more. I'm just going to show this, but we have one more.
Okay.
William Howard Taft was born to Alfonso and Louise Taft in Cincinnati, Ohio, September 15, 1857. He graduated Yale University in 1878. His first job was becoming a courthouse reporter for the Cincinnati Commercial. Taft became president on March 4, 1909. Shortly after he was elected president, he cabled China requesting that China grant U.S. investors a share of loan for building railroads in the southern region of China. They granted this reluctantly. 15 days later, he signed and passed the 16th Amendment, making it so Congress could collect taxes on incomes. On October 16, 1909, he held a summit in which narrowly escaped assassination attempt on June 18, 1912. Taft won the Republican Party nomination against Theodore Roosevelt. After becoming president, Taft taught at Yale and became Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. He died on March 8, 1930. He was still best known for being stuck in the bathtub during presidency.
Now remember, those students had 60 seconds to make this video, so that's why. Yes, 60 seconds. I would like to call up Jonathan Machado Aguilera.
Yes.
Jonathan, this gift is for you. We want to say we're going to miss you. You know, we're definitely, I know I will. I think Dr. West, yes, Dr. Weston too. I thank Dr. Weston for allowing me the opportunity to work with students throughout the year. And I've definitely grown very close to Imani and Jonathan as well. Jonathan has helped us out in a lot of ways, not just here in the school board capacity, but at our community events. He has stepped up to the calls to just kind of help us with our EL students and making sure that we're getting the information to them. We're making sure that we're able to communicate effectively. And a lot of times we didn't have to call. He volunteered for that task. And so we definitely thank you. We're going to miss you. Of course, we've had this conversation today that you and I will see each other a little later in regards to something else. But we want to say congratulations. And would you like to say something? Yes. Okay. All right.
Growing up in Dinwiddie, yeah, it's a lot different from what it is now. And, you know, with the support of my community and the board and my school, teacher, and everybody, you know, I'm blessed to have this opportunity. And I want to just thank everybody. I love you all. And thank you for supporting me along everything. And I'm just happy to be here.
I want you all to know, too, that tomorrow evening, Jonathan is graduating with his associate's degree from Richard Bland College.
Congratulations, Jonathan.
He's an amazing young person.
Yeah, we look forward to the future and what you will do in this world.
Yes.
Thank you. Board comments, Amani?
Okay.
Well, first of all, I just wanted to start by saying that I will definitely miss Jonathan as well. You know, with this being my first year coming in and just seeing how things are, Jonathan has been a very big help in just helping me figure out the ropes, letting me know what to do, and he's been a very nice friend to have in my life, and I'm so glad to have gotten this opportunity to have met him and gotten closer with him. And as far as all of the recognitions that happen, I am so proud of what's going on in my high school. You know, it's always nice hearing about what's going on in the county in general in different schools, but it's a different feeling when you know that this is the school that you're attending in this moment. So, you know, just congratulations to everyone who has been recognized. You know, we're doing great things. We're constantly doing great things. We recently hosted a whiteout for our seniors, you know, to celebrate them. And there's just so much good things going on in the high school, and I'm very proud to be a student there. And also, I just wanted to say congratulations to all of the retirees, you know, wishing you very good peace, you know, in your time, and just also just take that chance to do the things you want to do, relax, and just have that time for yourself. But I've definitely enjoyed doing this, being here, being able to meet all of you and get closer with you and learn from you all. And I couldn't imagine not being able to be here. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to skip the other board comments just for the moment because we have a special education comprehensive review report. And Mr. I can't pronounce your name. Cincinnati. Okay, please come forward. And the reason that we're trying to get you up here is because you have an airplane to catch, I do realize. So please come forward and go ahead with your report.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I'll start us off. Good afternoon. We appreciate Mr. Cicantelli being here this afternoon from American Educational Consultants, who conducted our comprehensive special education review. I'm going to give each of you a copy of the report. It is 119 pages long, and I will just say it's thorough. And we appreciate greatly the thoroughness of the report and just your expertise and your commendations and recommendations that we're going to take and this summer and look at and decide, what things do we need to do because we're always in the state of continuous improvement, right? So I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Clay. Thank you. Good evening, board. Good evening. And administrators and staff. Congratulations to the retirees. That's awesome. That was me a few years ago now. Yes, okay. Thank you to the Board of Education for giving us the opportunity. We really do appreciate being here in Dinwiddie. We were here for 4 days earlier, about 6 weeks ago, met some of you and had some conversations with many of the staff. Thank you to Dr. Weston and Dr. Clay for being so welcoming, for being so transparent. It's easy to get to know the district when everyone is so helpful. To the building principals, that I see several here, that were so accommodating when we were here and able to give us opportunities to get to know their staff and your students. It's just been great. American Education Consultants is a small group of former educators and current educators, and we're very serious about what we do. And so you saw from our report, we're thorough and comprehensive. We want to make sure that we can give you the best opportunity to have growth. There's so many good things here. In fact, this couldn't have been a better lead-in, this board meeting. There's two ways I look at education. And one is there's the structure of education. It's all the things that you do that make you successful. It's all those initiatives, those programs, those systems you put in. The other is your culture. Culture always trumps structure, right? It trumps everything. Your culture here is fantastic. I knew that before tonight or this afternoon, but you reinforced it for me in such a way. I've been in hundreds of districts. I work for the State Department in South Carolina now that I've retired. I was a classroom teacher. I was a building administrator, district level administrator, and superintendent in my career. I had 41 years in education. Now I work for the state, so I've been in a lot of districts, and all through South Carolina, through Ohio, where I worked, and across the country in this work I do in consulting. This is a great meeting. It's just a pleasure to see the pride and the folks here, what they believe in, and just the pride they have in this district and each other. So thank you for the opportunity to work with you here in Dinwiddie. It's been our pleasure. All right, so getting to the report. Purpose of the study really was to look at and examine all facets of special education. We wanted to look at the legal compliance, that instructional quality, and just the overall effectiveness of the program. No questions, there was no problems with compliance. Everything was solid there. We'll talk about some of the things that we saw that we think are opportunities for some growth. So we wanted to identify the strengths. We wanted to determine what areas or needs there will be for improvement. And then we also wanted to see what we can do to kind of provide recommendations for that improvement. There's a lot in that report. One of the things that will happen is the division will have to prioritize any of the recommendations that they may take. So what did we do? Well, we came for 4 days, spent 4 days here doing a qualitative analysis. We also did a quantitative, I'll talk about in a minute. So we met with focus groups, we did site visits, we had informal conversations. Again, I've done this for 4 years now and did it for a while before that. Being a superintendent, you're always in other districts. And very transparent here. People are just, again, welcoming, and that made our job easy. So we asked 3 questions of each of the focus groups, and we met with about 9 or 10 groups of stakeholders. What's going well? What needs improved? And what needs to be put in place that doesn't exist at this time? And again, people were forthcoming, which was helpful for us. They were able to tell us, I think, how they really felt, which was good stuff. We also gathered quantitative data. So we looked at the state report card. The district, again, the division was outstanding, providing us with information that we needed. We did research as we compared it to state and national norms, and that's all in our report. So I won't spend a lot of time on data because that's something you guys can look at when you get that opportunity. So the report that's in front of you is organized around the Dinwiddie Comprehensive Plan, and I hope that makes sense from the standpoint that if there's initiatives that you think are worth adding to the plan, they're already kind of set as to where we think they would probably best fit. So there's those areas that you see on the slide are the areas that we covered. I don't need to go into that too much, but one of the things that I offered to Dr. Weston and to her entire staff, we'll be done formally tonight, but I'm an educator. If there's anything that you need, there's any questions, there's something you want clarification on, we're here. Our team is here to provide you with that assistance. We want this to go well. We don't want to do the report and be done with it. This is something that we do as educators. So the commendations, we saw lots of good things, like I shared. The culture here is remarkable. I was impressed with the dedicated staff, the care and the love of students. Special education is near and dear to me. My wife has her PhD in special education. I have a son who is gifted, and I have a son who has Down syndrome. I have 3 children, so I run the gamut, and so I live that. And it was great to see that students here are welcomed. The students with special needs are integrated and a part of your school and greater community. In fact, one of the things I could point out now is 4 from the bottom, the scope of vocational opportunities and transition programs for students with disabilities. I don't know who's in charge of that. It's phenomenal. For a division your size, I've been to districts 3 times your size who don't have what you have in transition. And I can tell you, again, being the parent of a child with a disability, it's amazing what you do for your kids. So hats off to you guys. That's important, because when when young adults transition from high school services, from school age services to the community, many of them struggle. And they're just not sure where to go and what to do. That's not the case in Dinwiddie. We saw lots of evidence of really great programming. Parent satisfaction, we talked to parents in buildings, we talked to parents in our focus group. We got the same message. They're happy. The only thing we heard was that it's daunting sometimes, special education, and it is daunting. And so the first time they're ever exposed to it, they come to an IEP meeting, and there are 7 adults at the table, but that's something that we all work through. The talent here, we saw lots of talented people. That commitment to having a clear vision and a focused plan for improvement, that's a key to getting better. It certainly is being reflective and having that opportunity to truly understand what's going on and having a third party come in and help you see that in a clearer way if you can. Your class sizes were manageable. The administrative staff was accessible and supportive. We've heard that multiple times from Dr. Weston all the way through special education. Everyone said the folks that we need to talk to are available to us. The collegial, everyone in the district seems to get along. They like being here. The special education is adequately funded. It always could be better. We didn't see an ESSER cliff for you either, which is a good thing. I know ESSER is going to be painful, but it isn't a cliff in Dinwiddie, at least not that we could see or understand from having conversations. And then that vision for inclusion and least restrictive environment for students with disabilities. Again, the idea that the culture here is students with disabilities are a part of our school. It's not a place that they go. It's a service that they get so that they can be successful. So recommendations. We start with leadership because leadership is important. But when I say leadership, I was talking to Dr. Weston earlier this afternoon. Leadership is dispositional, not positional. And so one of the things that we've provided for you is a framework for a distributive leadership program. So Dr. Kelly, who was here with me as well, both of us worked that way as superintendents. And I know Dr. Weston does too. We're not saying that that's not happening here. But I think one of the things that we saw that is a challenge is being systemic with your initiatives. There's lots of really good things here, but they're happening in a classroom or a building, but not across the division. And that's not easy, and that's not unusual to see. But I think the distributive leadership helps you in that more people have ownership and an understanding of the initiative. And so that's kind of the framework that we built the whole thing around. Again, something that's a recommendation. I know that's already in place to some level. We just wanted to give you an idea of some of the things that we've done and what the research would say is a good way to help overcome those lack of systemic initiatives. The revision of the comprehensive plan, we think that should be part of what happens. It should be the umbrella for the whole division, right? Special education, again, is not a place, it's a service. Special education students start as general ed students and receive special education services to help them be successful. And so it should be as a part of that overall plan. And there's some details in that in the report. Personnel recommendations, we came across a couple. One of them, I'll just mention one, and you'll see them in there, and that's literacy, a literacy specialist. Literacy is hugely important. One of the biggest challenges that we saw in Dinwiddie is the gap between students with disabilities and their peers in literacy. Actually, it's still on par with the state average and on par with the national average, but in math, you actually do much better than the state and national average, your gap. So the challenge is the gap is there. The celebration is it's not as bad as most, but if there's one area of focus that we saw in the data, it was in literacy. And so one of our recommendations is that. General education, of course, it would start there. but this person would be focused to being provided those services for those students with special needs as well. All right. In the areas of academic achievement and growth, we just talked about those achievement gaps. Like I said, there's a challenge, but there's celebrations. Generally, those are better than most, which is good. MTSS, you've got a system of supports that you have in the division right now, but it's not a full-blown MTSS system. One of the things that we recommend in the report that I'll just share briefly is the Virginia Department of Education has some really robust programs, services, and supports. In fact, I looked on the map of the divisions that they're serving within this area, the region, and it was almost every division but Dinwiddie. And so I don't know if you guys have done any work with the department, but I would recommend reaching out to them because MTSS is going to help all students, certainly help those students that have special needs. That literacy focus we talked about, that's a challenge in many places. Once a student gets behind, and you know the research on this, once a student gets past third grade, right? So when I say literacy, I'm really focusing on early literacy. Investing it early is the key, and again, the research bears that out. Social emotional learning, that's a challenge everywhere we go. Talking to Dr. Wessons, I know they're reading The Anxious Generation. That's just a challenge today. But you guys have a plan. We gave you some more resources. There's not a district in the United States that isn't working on social emotional learning as an aspect to helping give their students the skills and strategies to work and thrive in today's society. And then the graduation rate is a little off the mark. I know that's again, there are initiatives in place. Our data brought it to our attention, so we mentioned it. But it's something that I know there are initiatives for. I love this saying, the idea of academic achievement growth, the education is not filling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire. And so that would be the other thing that I would ask you to continue to work on, and I know you do, but is that the classrooms are engaging, they're about being learners. It's not lecture and sit and get. It's truly about learning and meeting all learning styles. In fact, we've got something in there for that coming up. Learning environment. The learning environment we think was really good. We talked about class sizes being good. The facilities themselves are very nice to excellent. They're clean. The curricular materials, the technology, everything we saw was on par with what students need to be successful. There were a few things, the Students with Disability Support and Inclusion classrooms. One of the things that we didn't see was a consistent methodology for co-teaching. We saw pockets of excellence, and then we saw others where I don't know that there was as much of a focus or a plan. That's again that continuation of the entire program, making sure that it's functioning the same in all buildings. So we'd like to see some co-teaching, whatever model or whatever focus it is that you're going to do, make sure it's division-wide and it's implemented and monitored in that way. Transitions, we heard from a few folks that transitions are difficult. We know that from buildings to different buildings. So we just put it in the report because we heard it enough that it is an area that some people felt like could use maybe a little more attention. So not a big deal at all, but something that we put in. Again, we try to be as comprehensive as we can. Chronic absenteeism. We don't have the answer for that. We put some things in the report. That is an authentic kind of a situation where you'll have to come up and by having a focus group, by having conversations. The bottom line is chronic absenteeism, like a lot of places in the country, is impacting your students with disabilities' success in school. And so it has to be in the report, right? You've got to deal with it. You've got to look at it. One idea that we had was, and I don't know that you do this, we saw that you have SROs in every school, is truly utilizing them to go into the community with a school administrator, school personnel, and literally going from house to house and making a difference, if you can, one child, one family at a time. I can't tell you, stand here and not tell you I have the answers for this, but it's a challenge. And then the scheduling students with disabilities, we've heard that a couple times too, where their schedules weren't what they could have been because they weren't hand scheduled first. A lot of times that happens. Small thing, just something to consider as a recommendation for the learning environment. Premier workforce. So a district professional development steering committee, the idea there again is that distributed leadership. So when initiatives aren't done in a way that they're comprehensive and across the entire division. We feel like that's a great opportunity to have, again, ownership in professional learning. So when teachers and paraprofessionals and all personnel are involved in a committee that talks about what does our professional learning look like, what are our initiatives, what is it that we need, making sure that all voices are heard in that opportunity. A professional learning community is something that Dr. Wesson and I have talked about. I know you guys have had some conversations here. I can't say enough about that process. I worked most of my career in 2 districts, and they worked as professional learning communities, and I'm going to tell you, I wouldn't, if I was to go back into a district, I wouldn't work in a district that wasn't a PLC. That's how strongly I feel about it. What it does is it provides ongoing collaboration. It's professional learning that's timely, focused, and aligned to your initiatives. And there's no better way for a second grade teacher, and I'm just picking that as one opportunity, to learn than from his or her colleagues and meeting on a weekly basis where time is actually created for them to talk about teaching and learning and assessment and going back and looking at what's working. It's one of the things that we always did. We did action research. We would have groups sometimes of second grade teachers at X elementary who would do it different than Y elementary, and we would keep the data and look at it and say, okay, which plan worked? Because they both were research-based, but what's working best for us and why? And so there's just so many opportunities in the PLC to really get deep with your professional learning and do it in an ongoing way. A focus and aligned professional development in the areas that are listed there. There's a few areas that I think are important. That universal design for learning, I had referenced earlier just briefly, the idea that it's an instructional technique that's really about multiple ways for kids to learn. And it's just something to look at, especially for students with disabilities when you're trying to close gaps. Last one, recruitment, hiring, retention. You had a plan here this evening already. You have an initiative that I thought was outstanding. That's creative. Again, I don't have all the answers, but you guys are already on your way with some creative ideas of how it is that you can do that. The bottom line is there are just enough of a challenge sometimes that I think it's impacting students and their outcomes. Everybody's facing it. Operational resources is the last area. Here's the great news. We really have almost nothing. I've got some paraprofessional things that we'll look at and how to use them in a way that we didn't see anything that was concerning. We've never had so little in this area to a division, but there's nothing that we found that really concerned us, that caused us some angst. So it just ends up being a very light part of the report. So in summary, we found that the infrastructure is here. You've got that culture that is outstanding. You're meeting and exceeding state targets. Your data is good. There's gaps. You have challenges, and you're still fighting that fight. And that's why I'm here and why you're here. There's some indicators that you want to improve on, and I think there's some ways to do that. The findings in this report, I think, will help you do that. I think there's some opportunities for growth. These are all research-based practices. These are things that we have experience with and have done myself in other districts, things that we've done as consultants for districts. And in some cases, of course, have done extremely well. Some cases, maybe they weren't implemented. That's a division or district's problem, or question, I should say. But there's lots here to celebrate. And so we were just really, really pleased to be here. It was a pleasure. And with that, I'll ask if there's any questions about my summary or about I know you haven't had a chance to really read the report, but about anything from our visits.
It certainly is packed with lots of suggestions and data, and that we need to, if you're going to get better, you have to look at what's working well and what's not working well. So we appreciate your thoroughness.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions from?
Well, again, that's a standing offer that if there are any issues, concerns, questions, clarifications, again, we're educators. We're here to help. Just let us know. You have all our contact information. We'll be more than happy to provide whatever support or additional information that you may like. I'm going to leave because I do have a plane to catch to get back to South Carolina, but thank you so much. It was been a pleasure to work with everybody in the division.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate your help. Okay, transportation efficiency study.
I was creeping up. I didn't want to jump up here too soon.
No, that's okay.
We also brought a company in to do a transportation study, and so I brought Mr. Platt from CESO, and that stands for, they're going to ask the acronym. He'll take care of that. But I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Platt and let him do his thing, and then I'll have some information for you afterwards.
Good evening, I'm Tom Platt. I'm from CESO, which stands for the Center for Effective School Operations. We are not educators. We touch on everything in school division and school district operations that doesn't touch on education. My particular division is focused on transportation and transportation operations, and I'm pleased to be here, and I appreciate the opportunity to spend a few minutes talking about the results of the transportation efficiency study. So I am aware that you have a lot of materials in your board packet, and in the interest of time, we will keep this presentation very short and just touch on some of the most critical high points that we wanted to emphasize with you. So if we can go to the next slide, we are at the, I don't know who is. Yeah. She's got it. Thank you. So we are here tonight, we're at the final step in a process that began back in January. We began with a pretty comprehensive on-site visit where we did a lot of discovery work, spent a lot of time talking to staff, meeting with drivers, observing operations, looking at systems, observing transportation operations out in the field, and taking away a lot of data and information with us. Did a bunch of analysis with my team, a lot of conversations with my team, looking at the data, looking at the results of the on-site work, and came back and presented sort of our baseline assessment of the current status of the transportation system. We followed that up with a very detailed assessment of routing efficiency, which was one of the primary objectives of the study, and then turned all of that around into a final report that was sent to the division several weeks ago. And we're here just to present sort of the high points of the overall results. So if we can go to the next slide, if you would be so kind. So really, the key takeaways that I want you to focus on from this study can really be grouped under these two major headings. And most importantly, it's critical that you understand that the system, as it is designed, is an efficient transportation system. Now, the issue with that is that it doesn't get to operate as it's designed because of some operational issues that have been ongoing for a while, that have returned to a semblance of normalcy, but that have not really gone away. First and foremost, there's no surprise to anybody in this room that we continue to suffer, not just in Dinwiddie, but throughout the country, with being able to staff our routes the way they are designed. That is a fundamental core issue that has to be dealt with here in Dinwiddie as well as in the industry at large, and we'll talk some more about that as well. The response to date to the driver shortages by management and leadership has been, and rightfully so, I have to say, has been focused on how do we get the kids to school today? So the focus is on the patching the system today. Let's get the kids to school and in their seats today so that they can get on with their learning. Like I said, that is a necessary short-term response. But if we're ever going to break that cycle, then we need to turn our attention to the future, which is sort of the second major heading on this slide. We can't turn our attention to the future because we have an organization, systems and processes that are really designed for a world that doesn't exist anymore. Also, to the credit of the school division, you've made significant investments in technology. Technology is part of the solution going forward. But those investments have not resulted in operational improvements, and we'll talk about that a little bit when we get to the recommendations. The other thing that has not really been considered, and again, this is not pointing the fingers at Dinwiddie, because I can say this is true of most school divisions and districts around the country. We haven't focused on the reality of the demographics shift that is going on. The trends were apparent years ago. The pandemic really just accelerated what was already happening, and we need to address the issue of where the next generation of school bus drivers are going to be coming from. So if we can go to the next slide, please. So the recommendations obviously relate directly back to those core findings. The first one is an organizational focused recommendation, which is we have to target management attention where it belongs. And where it belongs, it continues to be on getting the kids to school today. But if we don't have management and leadership bandwidth to focus on the solutions for tomorrow, we'll never break out of that underlying cycle. So there were some recommendations in terms of some organizational and staffing changes in the office that are related to that first point. The second is we applaud you for your investments in technology, but we spent a lot of time in the report talking about the difference between implementing technology and integrating technology. They are two completely separate things. Implementing technology is buying the technology, putting it in place, training the users on how to navigate the interface or use the hardware. Integrating technology is all about how do we use that investment to improve operations, but also to use that investment and that focus on technology to help with the next point, which is the prioritization of the recruitment, training, and retention of bus drivers. This is a cohort that is often misunderstood and often underappreciated. You have an incredible cohort and cadre of bus drivers here in the division, but I know I overheard at least 2 of them are retiring this year, right? And this is true, again, industry-wide. I put myself in the same demographic. The folks who have been involved with and running this industry for a long time, we're starting to age out. We're starting to move on. And we've been running this industry in a way that is, great for 1999, maybe not so great for 2024. So this combination of technology and the need to rethink where we get and how we retain bus drivers is intimately related, the 2 points are, in our view. All of that taken together brings us to the final point, which is it's going to take further investment in those drivers and in the organization. And at some point, this board may be faced with the reality of having to match the available resources to the service that has to be delivered. And ultimately, everything comes back down to policy decisions that are in control of this board in terms of what services are provided, when they are provided, to which locations. So ultimately, there may be a point where a matching of supply and demand is going to be necessary, and a rethinking of some of the school board policies regarding transportation might become necessary. But there's a long way to go before we get to that point, and there's a number of improvements that are recommended in the report, and we are pleased to see how it has been taken internal and that there is already action to move in the right direction. So with that, we can go to the last slide, and I'd be happy to address any questions you may have.
So in gathering the information, and do you assist in making a plan for improvement?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah, we tried to make it a very action-forward oriented report. There is absolutely value to the baseline assessment part of things, and you'll see a lot of numbers and a lot of quantification and a lot of charts and graphs in the report, all designed to get us to the point where we can say with confidence that there is not anything fundamentally wrong with the way the system is constructed and put into place. Right. And that's what allowed us to pivot our attention to these more soft, anecdotal type issues.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure I understood the last point. So for the sake of my understanding, can you, like in layman's terms, like maybe offer some practical application of what you mean by matching resources, supply and demand?
Sure.
What does that look like?
So right now, forgive me, I've forgotten the exact numbers, so I'm going to make them up. If we have 50 bus routes as designed, that implies that we need 50 buses, 50 drivers, all of the associated spares, and all of the associated support resources to make sure those buses are safe and reliable to operate, that the office staff is there to answer the phones and provide customer service, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Currently, I'm using the number 50. Right. We don't have 50 drivers, right? So as a result, we are patching and filling every day. Some days we are able to use office staff to cover the missing driver. Other days we have to combine certain runs, and runs are operating late. So on the receiving end, which is the most important part of this, it feels like the system has problems, right? So going forward with some of these more systemic changes and improvements that we're talking about in the report are designed to reset those approaches to make sure that we have enough drivers and enough resources to operate the system. The final point was, you may go through all of that, realize, for example, and I'm not suggesting that you do this, you may have to pay more to attract the drivers that you need. And you may not have the resources available to employ all 50 of those drivers. Then you get into the point of saying, now I have more demand than I have supply to meet. So how do I change that dynamic, right? And the demand for 50 buses came from the services you have decided to provide. So you may have to change the way you think about the transportation services that are being provided to lower the total demand on the system.
So that kind of leads into my next question. Did your study or research evaluate our routing systems? Like,
Yes.
are we adequate? Like, are we running around with buses that are only 30% capacity, or are we?
No, so that was sort of key point number one.
Okay,
right?
so are we filling our buses or no?
We're not filling our buses,
Okay.
but we go into that in a fairly significant amount of detail in the report as to why that is, right?
Okay.
I mean, the goal for any system, and it sounds simple, but it's hard to execute on, is to fill the bus, use the seats, and reuse the bus as many times as possible over the course of the day. You do those two things, you will have an efficient system. But all of that has to be done in the context of the local circumstances, right? And what we have here is a rural system. These buses have to move a lot of miles on some pretty rough roads. So it's time constrained. You don't have enough time to fill all of the seats before you have to get those kids to school. So with all of that context, that's how we arrived at our assessment of baseline efficiency, right?
Thank you. Appreciate
Sure.
it. So I did have the question of where we can access this, because I am planning to, just like with the special education report, do something with the information that you've given us. So do you have physical copies on you?
Before you leave today.
Okay, sounds great. That's just my question. Thank you.
Other questions? We know this is an area that we've been struggling with, just like the rest of the world. But we have to address our own struggles, just like the rest of the world. So we do appreciate your input, and thank you. It's something that we need to do, is look at each of our systems and each of the pieces that fit together, and make improvements where possible. We don't have a magic wand, and neither do you, but we need to improve on what we have, and appreciate your help with that.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure working with all of you.
Thank you.
If I could, I'd like to, we've been working on this for a long time, and me and Tom have met a number of times in person and on the phone. I would like to take an opportunity to kind of describe the things we have in place, and I don't want to say fixes, because it's trial and error. Some things work, some things don't. But we addressed each one of the areas that he identified as being an issue, and we have a good solid plan in place for that. And so I would like to go through those if you'd allow me to. The first identified area for need for improvement is, not necessarily inefficient routing, but the efficiency of running those routes, because I think the routes are very efficient, but the way we're doing it is not real efficient. Insufficient driver staffing, absenteeism, things of that nature. So we're going to try to focus on getting out of that rut of having, inefficient routing based on human resource, basically. We're going to reset our leadership roles and responsibilities. I think it's important for transportation to take full ownership of transportation. And taking that full ownership is, having these leaders in this department in the transportation building so they can make decisions without, quote, running it up the leadership flagpole. They shouldn't need to call down here to make basic decisions, and that's going to make us more efficient. But the one thing that they have to do is they have to be there to do that. Right now, today, of course, it's raining outside. Buses are slow, but my director is driving a route today, and we need that to stop. So one of the things we're going to do is anybody in a leadership position it's going to be a hard stop. June 1, they're not driving routes anymore. And now what that's going to cause, it's going to cause initially some later buses. It's going to cause more late buses. But what it's going to improve when Miss Benjamin, as a parent, calls the bus garage and needs to speak to the director, she doesn't have to be told by the lone person in there, which is the person answering the phone, he's not here. And because when I'm a parent and I call, I want to know the answers because it's an important business. You know, you're driving my children. So we're going to put a hard stop to that so we have somebody there to answer that question so we can give information to parents. I made a calculated guess that that's more important than possibly having a bus be 15 or 20 minutes earlier. We're also going to have the director focus on the strategic plan. Tom mentioned a number of times that we are plugging gaps. You know, we're constantly just putting, you know, plugs in holes, you know, as the water leaks out. And that's something, if you've ever been to transportation between 7 and 8:30 in the morning or between 2 and 4:30 in the afternoon, it's chaos. Everybody's putting out fires, answering calls. We need that to stop. We need to have a dedicated routing system. We need to have a dedicated leader there all the time. And we need to have a plan in place so that we can have a sustainable fix to these problems. Right now, we're fixing problems moment by moment, and we all go home and come back the next day and do the exact same thing. And that's not working. We need to do better, and we will do better. We've established also that our coordinator right now is going to be more of an operations manager. She's going to be in charge of the day-to-day in transportation. And that day-to-day is going to be focused towards the strategic plan that's put in place by the director so that we're all going in the same direction. And again, we're coming up with sustainable fixes to these problems. Now, it's not going to be an immediate fix, and I'm going to make sure that the stakeholders know that we're not going to start June 1, flip a switch, and everything's perfect. It's going to take time. But we have to have a threshold, we have to have a standard, and we have to have a plan in order to get to where things run smoothly and we get to where there's not constantly late buses. And then we're also going to have the person who does the routing analyzation and the rerouting on, when bus drivers call in, you have to do a reroute. You have to find somebody to drive that, or you have to, reroute and combine routes or whatever. That person's going to be a hard stop, not driving routes anymore. They're going to be there on scene daily to make those decisions to help with those problems. And I think those are going to really help with our routing efficiency day to day. The outdated department design, that was quite honestly the thing that was the most alarming to me, is that we paid a lot of money for Traversa, which is a fairly sophisticated department management platform, and we use it to route, and we need to be using it to run our department, and we use it for one aspect of our department, but we have access to all of it. So we are going to fully integrate technology within the transportation department.
One of my concerns on that point, which we all share from our homes, is part of the problem is it's a wonderful system, but that bus has to drive down this road that has wonderful internet and make a left turn on my road, and it drops.
It does.
And then in the meantime, there's a parent looking to see where the bus is. They can't tell. And then they get back down on somebody else's road and it picks back up, but it has to reload. So through no fault of transportation, connectivity within Dinwiddie County's roads is paramount, and seems like we're not making a whole lot of progress in that department.
Well, we're not, and I again strategically said we're going to control the things we can control, and the things we can control is when they get connectivity better, we'll be ready to roll. I'm the most guilty of this, and I did it. I stood in front of the entire transportation department and said, I know that this is not ideal because we don't have good service in our county. Well, what am I telling all the bus drivers?
It doesn't work.
Doesn't work, don't worry about it. Well, I'm not going to do that anymore. We're going to use it to the best of our ability, and when it works, we're going to work. It's going to be fantastic. When it doesn't, we're going to deal with that, and we're going to move on, and we're going to go case by case in that situation. So I have the same concern, Ms. Pittman, but I don't know that there's anything more that we can do except for just push forward.
Right.
But our goal is for end-to-end usage of these tablets on these buses. And what that means is that bus driver climbs on that bus and starts their pre-check, they should be on that tablet. Right. Until they get off that bus and go back into their house at the end of their shift, they should be using that tablet. That tablet can do things that can solve a array of problems that we're having. If that bus gets stuck at a train track or there's an accident, that driver, while they're sitting there, can send a message to just the children that haven't been picked up yet that says, we're running 15 minutes late because we're in an accident or something like that. That's invaluable information to a parent. Instead of us calling the bus garage and them sending a text to everybody And then everybody's trying to remember what their blue number is. Well, what's my blue number? I don't even know which bus is really late. And those are things that we have a lot of complications with. And so we don't want kids to stand out there in the cold. We don't want kids to wonder if the bus is coming. That's I can only imagine as a child. I didn't ride the bus growing up. I walked to school. But I can only imagine standing there wondering if the bus is actually going to show up. That's a pretty empty feeling, especially if mom and dad are at work. So we're trying to solve those things. But the big thing is we've got to start using Traversa to run our department, not just our routing. And that's what we're going to do. And these are expectations we're going to have. And the reason I picked June 1 is because our school year will be over, and we can have at this point, we talked about it a million times with Ms. McLaughlin and Mr. Tucker. We're going to stop deviating from our guidelines. We have guidelines. We're either going to follow them or change them, but we're not going to deviate any longer. We have to do that to get some efficiency back, and we owe that to the community. The last thing, and I think it was kind of hinted on, was the outdated division level policies. One of the things that they suggested I really like is that we put together a transportation impact committee. And that impact committee is going to have representation from all stakeholders, whether it be from schools, whether it be from the school board, whether it be from the community, from division leadership, students possibly. But we're going to look at our policies and see, do these policies still match what we're trying to do as a transportation department? And if they don't, we're going to bring recommendations to the board and say, these are the things that we think can help us be more efficient. And we're going to discuss these policies, we're going to discuss these recommendations, and we're going to bring them back to you and say, this is what our community is feeling that we need to do. And there may be some hard changes, there may be some easy changes, but I think we have to explore them all if we're really going to get to the bottom of this and make sure that we fix this problem, okay? Because I'm just not a fan of, it's a problem everywhere, so we're just going to live with it. Because to me, that's an excuse, and we're done with that, so. Yes, sir.
Quick question. Special activities transportation, was that part of this study that we just got done? Are we viewing that as like a byproduct of some of these other problems, or is that a separate problem? Because I do know there are times when baseball can't get a bus to get them to practice or whatever. So is that something that we're looking at separately, or do we think some of these?
They're really one and the same. Special activities is, you can also say special routing. It's a routing situation. We're going to have somebody dedicated to that day in and day out. Now, that's not going to give us more people. So it still may be difficult to find that bus, but we're going to have somebody who's qualified at looking at this routing software, sitting there day after day doing that, instead of having to run a route real quick and come back and then deal with it last second. So it is difficult, because if you don't have enough routes to get the kids to school and back, then you probably don't have enough to get the kids to baseball practice and back, or to a game and back. But we're going to continue to work on that. We're going to continue to think outside the box. And for, these smaller teams, continue to train people to drive these 14-passenger buses.
I like that.
I'd love to see people come forward. We had one person go all the way through the CDL, and he's leaving our district this year. So, but we're going to keep trying, because why not? I mean, what does it hurt us to keep trying to find people that'll drive buses? We need drivers. So, any other questions I can answer? I know we've taken a lot of time, and I know there's a larger docket. So, yeah. And I will have to you a packet for each of you. I was under the impression it came to you in the as an attachment to an email, and it must not have. That was probably on me, but you'll have that before you leave today.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Policy update. Dr. Clay.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So this evening, I am presenting policy JGDB, which is a policy about the discipline of students with disabilities for infliction of serious bodily injury. So I will just say this policy comes straight from Virginia, like this wording comes straight from the Code of Virginia. So it is straight from the Code of Virginia. And other districts, around us, and looking at this policy, use this exact wording from the code. So basically the Code of Virginia allows for this, and I am going to read it to you. A student with a disability may be removed without parent consent and assigned to an interim alternative education program by school personnel for not more than 45 school days when the student has inflicted serious bodily injury upon another person while at school, on school premises, or at a school function under the jurisdiction of a state or local educational agency. This option is available regardless of whether a manifestation exists. If no manifestation is found, the student may be disciplined to the extent that a student without disabilities would be disciplined. There are some other policies noted here that talk about the discipline of students with disabilities, weapons in school, and drugs, because this code also talks about removal in other situations, but this is pertinent to serious bodily injury, which has some specific definitions for that. It is bodily injury that involves a substantial risk of death, extreme physical pain, protracted and obvious disfigurement, or protracted loss of or impairment of the function of a bodily member, organ, or mental faculty. So this is very specific in code. So if this were to happen, which we all hope this would never happen, right? What this allows is that the student with the disability can be removed from the general education setting. During that time, they would still receive instructional services. A manifestation determination would still occur. But just in the interim of those things happening, there would be an immediate removal. So any questions about that policy? I feel like it's pretty straightforward. Okay. And so this evening was really just the first read is how we put it there. You can, look at code, think about feedback or questions you have for us, and then at our next meeting, it would come for approval of the board. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rwanti update and ARGs. And since the last meeting, have you had regional meetings in Richmond, Dr. Pearson? Not since last time, okay. Mr. Walker?
Of course, Ms. Pittman and I still serve on the board of controllers for Rwanti. And just to give an update, the big thing over at Rwanti right now is filling the position of the administrator, which I think we've got a special meeting scheduled for this next week, where I think we'll make a decision to hire. So the committee has done interviews and everything, so that's the big deal. There's one other thing that really took up a bit of our time in discussion this past meeting, and that was addressing some of the faculty members there have a concern about the way that the cluster programs were handled. And for those that may not be familiar with that, I think there's 3 programs there that used to be 1.5-year programs, and there was a decision made in the past to just kind of reduce them to 1-year programs. And some of the faculty are concerned about issues that created related to being able to finish the training that's required, their competencies. So I think we'll be looking at that a little bit more in future meetings. But right now, we're mainly focused on getting an administrator hired. So.
And I attended ARGs for Ms. Benjamin. And at this time of year, they're celebrating a lot of successes and scholarships and so forth for the students. The big issue at that particular meeting was roof issues. And as you know, that's an old building. It's the former Petersburg High School building. And they have gotten a company to come in and give quotes on fixing them. Of course, do you just fix, there's 2 separate buildings. The gymnasium is separate from the main building. The main building, they could patch some places, but the gymnasium needs an entire new roof. And when you're talking about large old buildings, you're talking about $500,000 type things. So CIP for those kind of buildings, and I know that Maggie Walker is also in an old building, and it's a great use, these empty buildings, to have them to be the regional buildings, but then you have the issue of the fact that you're in a 50 or 100-year-old building, and modifying them becomes very expensive. So they have very little turnover at ARGs. I think there's 1 teacher leaving, and that's a great thing. Any principal that's operating this loves not to have to find new staff, so that's on the plus side for them. All right, board matters. Nope. Are we down to?
Mr. Torres.
Mr. Torres, yes.
I think he's got like.
Yes.
There's a lot.
There's a whole
I have
lot.
a quick question. before we
Yes,
go
go
through.
right ahead.
Are we moving the board comments and Jonathan consultants' comments to the end of everything, because I know we are starting to see some people leave. I want to make sure that we share whatever comments we had before.
Yeah, we'll do it before we go into the closed sessions. Okay, so we need to finish these
So
things
all
right
the board
here.
matters, and then we'll go back to what we had started.
Yeah, citizen comments, yes. These will go quickly though, I think.
Yes, there's just a lot of them. All right, the first one we have is varsity wrestling to Fishburne Military School in Waynesboro, Virginia. It's an overnight camp on June 9th, starting on June 9th, getting out on June 13th. Coach Hall will drive the activity bus. We have 14 kids going, looking for board approval.
I need a motion and a second.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the trip for the varsity wrestling team to the Fishburne Military School.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Next one.
All right, the next one again is varsity wrestling. This one's to the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga. They're going to do a lot of wrestling in 2 weeks. So, because this one is on June 14th through June 18th. 14 kids going. Coach Hall will drive the bus, depending on the kids' activity or regular bus. And I believe with these, the students sign up, so it might not be the same ones. It might be the same ones that go, depending. It's their choice to go to back-to-back camps. And looking for board approval on this one.
So we're gonna take a school bus to Chattanooga, Tennessee.
I believe it's only the 14 kids, but he did not specify activity bus on this one. But he is certified to drive both. So, but it does say 14 kids.
That's a tough ride on the school bus. That's a tough ride.
We're hoping it's the
I believe it's the activity bus because he does have 14 down.
Yeah, I need a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the wrestling trip to the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga.
Second. Motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Next.
Next one is the FFA National Convention in Indianapolis, Indiana, October 22nd through 26th of next year. Mr. Davis and Ms. Bishop taking approximately 12 to 16, depending on the room sizes. 2 adults that go. They raise all the money for this throughout their fundraisers and different things. This is, they're competing and they're networking with other members from the FFA.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the trip to the National FFA Convention.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. FFA State Convention.
FFA State Convention. This one's held out in Blacksburg on the campus of Virginia Tech. They will leave on the 24th of June and come back on the 27th. Again, approximately 16 to 20 gives them the opportunity to compete, network, and so on and so forth. Thomas Davis will drive this trip with one of our buses.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the trip to the FFA State Convention in Blacksburg.
Second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
All right, the next one is the girls wrestling trip to Lock Haven University in Pennsylvania. This will be held on June 27th through June 30th. Coach Rogerson will drive the activity bus. Another adult will go, so there'll be Coach Rogerson and another adult. Once they go out, they are staffed and, well, not staffed, but they are under the supervision of the staff at the wrestling camp. We are basically the transportation out there. Our coaches are not coaching at the camp.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the girls wrestling trip to Lock Haven University.
Second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
All right, the last trip, I believe this is my last one. My last trip is the Junior Reserve Officers Training for the JROTC Cadet Leadership Challenge Summer Camp. This one is, the date of the trip is 6/23, 12 kids going, number of adults 2, and this is for Sergeant Richardson.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the trip for the cadet leadership training.
Second. There's a motion and I have a question. Where is that?
This one's out in Lexington, Virginia, at VMI.
And I know our two sponsors are males, and when they get there, they have female.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes. They're, it says right here, all the cadets, they're housed on different floors and things like that once they get out to VMI.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Or anybody opposed? The motion carries. Thank you.
All right. Last thing, I would like to invite y'all next Wednesday, if you're available. We have our all sports night at the high school at 6 p.m., where we will be recognizing our all of our scholar athletes, our coaches of the year, our male and female athletes of the year, and so forth.
Wait, you
Thank
say
you.
next Wednesday, is that tomorrow or
No,
next
next
week?
Wednesday, the
Next week.
22nd. Yes,
Okay.
May 22nd.
Thank you. All right, workforce readiness application. Ms. Wolfolk.
And I'd like to invite Amani because they did an outstanding job. Yes, we put together the application, but this is all their work. We really had a great time interviewing with them because our third pathway that we investigated was about education and the ideas that they have and the plan that they have for next year so that this can be sustained is, look at there. It's phenomenal. So the three areas that they really spent a lot of time putting together their videos, and I'm going to let them share a little bit about their process. We briefly talked about it in the fall, but we focused on advanced manufacturing, healthcare, and education. Because there's a highest area of need, I think, in our area where we're seeing the most growth. So I'd like to let them kind of tell you a little bit about their making this come to life for teens, right?
Well, first of all, we just wanted to start by saying that we are happy to be back to actually show what we've done and show how we have been doing things, and to also showcase our plans as the year goes on and as the new year starts. So I'll let her.
So you guys have kind of already heard how this came about, but just a refresher, MCIT, Making Careers Illuminate for Teens. We kind of thought this up as a small initiative. Initially, it wasn't really an initiative. It was more of a thought process of we want to include everyone in the exploration, not just people who want to do masonry or people who want to do welding or people who want to do this or that, but make it available so that even if you're not interested, you understand and you can educate someone else on what you can do with all of this.
So with that being said, we're just going to give just a general rundown of our business timeline, how it's been going, and our future plans.
So starting off, we were first thinking of this project and thinking up this project when we were invited as DECA to record and film blueprint automation and EPT. We later were invited to the first school board meeting to show everyone kind of what our thought process was with this. Later on, we then did our first official post on our social media and then moved into YouTube as well.
As far as posts on social media and videos in general, we also have recently posted our first YouTube video, which was the advanced manufacturing. We put that on YouTube. We are currently pending to put the healthcare video out on YouTube, but that is in the queue, so please check that out once it's posted. But as far as social media, you know, we have various platforms, and we really plan to engage not only with students, but also getting staff, having staff say experiences, and of course, people in the community as well. We want to get really active over the summer, hopefully maybe make a post for our seniors who are leaving out, and just give them a general idea of just things they can be doing as they either prepare to be enlisted, enrolled, or, you know, employed. So we are really hoping to just get active, get other people involved, and really just show what MCT is all about.
Finally, I do want to look to the future and kind of, as most of you guys know, we are 11th graders. We will be seniors this year. So moving forward, we do want to assemble kind of a small group of other people who will kind of take the torch behind us because unfortunately, we will be gone in a little while, fortunately and unfortunately. So we are also in the works of making more people understand kind of what we are aiming to go for with this initiative.
At the end of the day, with MCIT and with what we've started, we just want to make sure that it continues and that even after we leave, that it just continues to grow and just prosper into something even bigger than what our first general idea was. And we just thank you all for your support, for letting us do this and letting us travel and bring this to students and our community in general, because it really does mean a lot to us.
So I'm going to share a little bit about some of the statistics just because that's what strengthens this application. They had over 800 views on their very first video. So just going to show that when students are promoting things within their own school community, it is viewed a lot more, which is fantastic. Major Clarity let us know that we will be a power user district again. So we had 472 students create an academic and career plan during the school year. 1,449 students did a career assessment, so they're re-engaging in the career assessments. And the middle school created 286 brand new plans, academic and career plans. So that was very exciting. And I think that really does speak to it. They did get to talk with Blueprint Automation, EPT, and some of those business partners serve on our advisory board. And so that's where it stemmed from. They were like, do you have any interesting students that would come and tell our story? And so they jumped at the opportunity. Then they went to the Dunlop House for the health sciences. And then Ms. Valentine and I were able to sit with them and share and listen to how inspiring that they are going to be. And so we have seen a huge increase in overall activity and Major Clarity from last year to this, going from 42 to 50%. So I really do think that their efforts have made a huge difference, and I hope that you will approve the BSBA workforce application as it's written.
Well, thank you for all your hard work. Any questions about this application? Basically, they are summarizing their work and applying to be recognized. Questions of the group? If not, we need a motion and a second to send the application in.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve and get this application sent in.
A second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? The motion is carried, and we thank you so much for all your hard work.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Elementary history curriculum.
Ms. Valentine.
Good evening, Ms. Valentine.
Good evening, Board Chair Ms. Pittman, all board members, Dr. Weston, student representatives, and all in attendance. Good evening. My name is Shania Valentine. I am the Director of Elementary Education, and this evening I have the pleasure of presenting to you our proposal for elementary history curriculum updates. It's okay. And while that is loading, just an overall gist, I will start with kind of the reasoning behind our proposal and why we are having this discussion. Oh, I have it. I'm sorry. Okay, so starting with the purpose. As you all may already be aware, the standards of learning are changing in each content area per the Virginia Department of Education. History, however, is one area that will include some unique changes. As it relates to Dinwiddie County, currently, Virginia Studies is currently taught in 4th and 5th grade, but only tested in 5th grade during this current school year, 23-24. In order to prepare for the changing standards, Virginia Studies will be taught and tested in both 4th and 5th grade simultaneously next year for the 24-25 school year. The following year is where the heavy lift will take place. Virginia Studies will only be taught and tested in 4th grade during that 25-26 school year. So what does all of that mean? As a result, a new curriculum will have to be established for 5th grade during that year, again, the 25-26 school year. So that means we have to completely reimagine what that will look like for 5th grade. And our proposal is that the first 9 weeks of 5th grade be dedicated to teaching Dinwiddie history. And now I'll go into the reasons why that is our proposal. One, this is being done in most of the surrounding districts. I've had the opportunity to participate in a cohort for Region 1. Region 1 cohorts are pretty much being developed in every content area. So for this particular one in history, I've had an opportunity to meet with district level administrators and representatives from Chesterfield, Prince George, Powhatan County, Petersburg, and if they have not already adopted this do your own history type of scenario, they are moving towards doing that. Moreover, our students need to be aware of the history that is right here in their backyards. This will help students to understand where they come from. It will help them to foster a sense of pride in their community while acknowledging the influences and contributions of individuals within their community. Virginia Department of Education has proposed that U.S. History 1 standards be pushed down to 5th grade during the 25-26 school year. So this is not a sole decision from just elementary or just Miss Valentine. We are sure to engage all of our stakeholders in making sure that we're looking at things through a systems lens. So also I've had the opportunity to rely on Carly Wolfrock, who is Director, of course, of Secondary Education, and I'll go into why I've also relied on her. So again, most of the surrounding districts, specifically in Region 1, are choosing not to follow that aforementioned U.S. history progression. And why is that? Because of the endorsement implications. So in speaking with secondary, a lot of their secondary teachers already have that U.S. history background and that U.S. history endorsement, whereas our elementary people have a general elementary education endorsement. Students will also receive that U.S. History 1 instruction in middle school. So it's not that there will be any gaps created. They will be getting that upon entry in middle school. Again, it is important for students to be exposed to Dinwiddie history. So what will this look like? And this is just a generic overview. Unit 1, we are proposing that we start with covering the actual implementation or initiation of the beginnings of Dinwiddie, if you will. Also exploring indigenous people within Dinwiddie, colonial times, and the Revolutionary War. Unit 2 will be Civil War, Reconstruction era, Civil Rights era, and then also Jim Crow. And it's important to highlight that this is not just the struggle. This is also celebrating the contributions and things and how they have improved. Unit 3 would also be Geography and Industry. Unit 4, 20th century and 21st century. And Unit 5, which has a very rich history, the history of schools in Dinwiddie County. So Unit 4, and this is kind of backwards, if you will. The 20th century, 21st century, just going into a little bit of more of a deep dive as far as information. That would look like, what are the advances in transportation, communications, and technology? What is the current role of our Dinwiddie local government? What are the current major products and industries within Dinwiddie County? And how do these products and industries contribute to Virginia's prosperity, as well as the state, national, and global economy? Our students need to know that what is going on in Dinwiddie County not only benefits Dinwiddie County, but beyond that. Unit 1 that I mentioned earlier, again, how did Dinwiddie County get its name? The start of Dinwiddie history, what indigenous tribes existed in Dinwiddie, what did early American and colonial times look like in Dinwiddie, who were the significant people and leaders during this time, and what role did Dinwiddie County play in the American Revolution? Unit 2 that I mentioned would be Civil War, Reconstruction era, Civil Rights, and Jim Crow. What major events took place in Dinwiddie during the Civil War? What were the significant sites? Who were the significant people and significant contributions during the Civil War? What were the major battles that took place in Dinwiddie during the Civil War? what effect did the Reconstruction era have on Dinwiddie, and what were the effects of segregation and the Jim Crow era in Dinwiddie. What I found most interesting about all of these potential units is that while I am not originally from Dinwiddie, I reside in Dinwiddie now. And it's just interesting to me, because I'm a nerd and a history buff, it's just very interesting to me the rich history that literally exists in some people's backyards. And so we'll get into the people that are helping to contribute to this work in just a moment, but I'm excited about it because they bring such a plethora of knowledge to the table. Unit 3, we spoke about would be geography and industry. What are the major products and industries that have existed since the start of Dinwiddie history? How have these products and industries evolved? What major role does agriculture play in Dinwiddie history, which we know a huge one? What counties and waterways border Dinwiddie County? What region is Dinwiddie County located in? And what regions border our region? And then we talked about the history of schools in Dinwiddie County. What were some of the first schools that existed in Dinwiddie County? Who attended these schools? How were they founded? Rosenwald schools, historic Southside High School, and how has the school experience and educational system in Dinwiddie County evolved throughout the years? Again, we want to look back on how much has been accomplished while also informing how much more work we still have yet to do. So who will assist in developing this curriculum? Again, this is not a Miss Valentine initiative, even though I am a nerd and a history buff. A combination of community members and DCPS elementary teachers, those field and research experts, that's what we call them, because we are relying on their knowledge base. And some of them actually are here this evening, and feel free to stand if you so choose. Sharon Yates, she is a member of the first class to integrate Dinwiddie High School. Chuck Moss, he is a history major, but also a charter member and past president of Longwood University Phi Alpha Theta International History Honors Fraternity. Dan Robbins, who is a historian, and his current home is a historic site from the Civil War. Also Pamplin Park, which is a great field trip opportunity for our students. They will help to provide information as a resource related to Dinwiddie history. Betty Brown, knowledge base on the Jim Crow era as a resource and president of the Dinwiddie chapter of NAACP. Sherilyn Merritt, who has a significant family history that dates back many years, as well as one of our school board members, Mary Benjamin, who also has a family and land history that dates back 100 years. In addition to those folks, and I'll come back just a moment. Well, I apologize, they should have been on there as well, but we do have some teacher representation on that team. Elizabeth Martinez, who represents Dinwiddie Elementary School, Mary Beth Stout, who represents Sunnyside Elementary School, Tammy Lucy, who represents Dinwiddie Elementary School, and Sadie Kraft, and Carissa Hansen, that represents Sutherland Elementary School. So it's a combination of community partners as well as our school representation. So if Dinwiddie history is taught during the first 9 weeks, what will be taught in the remaining 9 weeks? And so the second 9 weeks, third and fourth, would be regions of the U.S., and you see them listed with Midwest, Southwest, West, Southeast, and Northeast. Geography as a whole, spanning North America, South America, and the remaining continents, Antarctica, Europe, Asia, Africa, and Australia. So why are we choosing to hone in on geography? Well, our historical data shows that geography is an area that students struggle with upon embarking on in elementary and middle school. We've received that feedback from our elementary teachers as well as our middle school teachers. So they just need a little bit more time to hone in on those geography skills. Also, participants in that Region 1 history cohort that I mentioned, they are following the same format. So this helps to promote consistency across the region and ultimately the state. We have also highlighted some potential field trip opportunities, which would include, at the very least, but also any others that are brought to the table: History and Culture Museum, Pamplin Park, Five Forks. There's also a special site off of Wilkinson Road, Petersburg Battlefield Park, Historic Southside High School, and Older Store / house. We also wanted to highlight a resource list in addition to those human resources that we have coming to the table that are providing their knowledge base. We also have a Dinwiddie Archives and Historical Documents website. We also have a text that is titled Dinwiddie County by Richard Jones, and another historical site, which is dinwiddiehistory.org. So all of our community members, we are steadily adding to that team of people. Dr. Sandra Ruffin has recently been added, so if she would like to stand as well. So this is ongoing work for all of us. It doesn't stop here. So we are essentially looking to continue to add to that team because we value any other knowledge base that can be added. So at this time, I will attempt to answer any questions that you all have or any concerns. Just listed here, our elementary history team respectfully requests that you approve our proposal for starting our Dinwiddie history curriculum writing based on the overview provided. Thank you for your time. Are there any questions?
I have one question. So the state is pushing that test from 5th to 4th, meaning that it will be presented reading ability-wise as 4th grade?
So, great question. Let me explain that. Currently, most districts in the state of Virginia are already testing and teaching Virginia studies in 4th grade. It just so happens that Dinwiddie was doing it a little different. So we're now having to kind of change and switch how we're doing it and push it down in order to align with what the new state standards are going to be for history. So it's a transitional type piece. And fast forward that to what that would mean for the 5th grade portion is their proposal is to have the U.S. history be what we teach in 5th grade. And we just felt like that was going to create, it was going to open up a can of worms because one, we don't have in elementary the licensure piece, the endorsement piece for our teachers to be able to cover U.S. History 1, and also we know that they're going to do it there, and we saw the gap there as far as the geography piece. But moreover, our hope is, in addition to the content areas, the reading, the writing, the math, we want to help to create well-rounded citizens, and ultimately, you know, from a systems lens and a lot of K-12 work between elementary and secondary, producing students and graduates that are going to want to remain in their community and want to remain to work in their community and contribute to their community. And teaching them you don't have to go to Richmond or to Washington, D.C. If you do, that's great, but you have a rich history right here in your backyard. So I think it's a culmination of things, that piece, wanting them to be invested in their community and knowing the history that's there and being able to speak to it. I think also what we're finding with VLA and a lot of the work that we're embarking on, we desperately need community partnership and stakeholders invested in this work, and I think that's a great way to also engage them. These folks that are here tonight coming to support this endeavor, and Mr. Robbins, I'm elated to see how excited they get when they start to talk about it, and they're wanting and yearning to contribute and partner with us on this work. So I hope I answered that correctly.
Yeah, I'm excited about a Dinwiddie history piece. I'm just concerned about the readability of the test from the state, that it would be 4th grade.
Right.
Because that would really affect how well we do.
Absolutely. And I will say too, I think we're going to address that with our curriculum work. I hope I'm not speaking out of line by saying this. I think a lot of that also comes down to how we change, how we reimagine it. I'll just go out on a limb and say there's so much work to be done in math and literacy, and understandably so, we devote a lot of time and effort and attention to that we sometimes slight history and science, and we can no longer continue to do that. So I think how we empower teachers and provide professional development to help them to understand it needs to be across the content areas, the reading does, and how they can infuse it so that it's not in isolation and it's cross-curricular. I think that will also help with the readability piece for the students.
I personally love this. Awesome. And it's my conviction that this sort of thing will inspire kids to learn, because I think when you touch history and experience history and realize it's right in your backyard, it opens or it creates a curiosity to learn more about the history that may be not right in your backyard. So I wish we had this class when I was in school. And so I want to know, how can I take the class?
Thank you. We will take all the help and all the students we can get.
I want to come and sit and I want to learn. So,
thank you.
But anyway, that being said, I'll make the motion that we give you approval to start writing the curriculum.
I second that. Awesome. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? And thank you for your hard work. Where are we? Petersburg Battlefield.
This fits very well into what we were just talking about. I'm going to go ahead, I made copies. Maybe y'all can be involved too, Dr. Wilson. And then for the board, I attached your transportation information to this also. I gave you one too. So the front thing is what we're talking about, which is, well, I'll get to the microphone. Mr. J.D. Robbins is how I know him, but Dan Robbins, who's on the curriculum committee, approached me. He's on behalf of the Petersburg Battlefield. They're placing markers for the Battle of Dinwiddie Courthouse, and one of the marker locations is on Dinwiddie County Public School land. And so he approached me and asked about it, and I thought it was a really cool thing to do. I wanted to make sure, though, that you were able to see exactly what would be on that marker. If you read through it, it deals with simply the battle and the strategic aspects of the battle. I wanted to make sure we weren't getting into the other aspects within the Civil War. But that marker, exactly what it's going to look like, except for it's going to be, I think it's 3 by 4, maybe 4 by 3, is exactly what's on that first page. The second page shows exactly where the marker is going to be. It's right across from the driving range, and this is actually where this skirmish took place during the Battle of Dinwiddie Courthouse, right there on that area. And then
On the same side of the road as the driving range? Or the other
opposite of the driving range.
Okay.
So if you're going towards the high school from here, it's on the left side right before you get to the driving range. And what they'll do is they'll put, if you see the third page, a marker that looks like that from the Petersburg Battlefield Foundation. And that metal casting is actually made by Rwanti, students at Rwanti. But I don't know, I'm kind of I was a history major also. You know, this is a very interesting time period in the Civil War as they come through Dinwiddie, because it's mere 9 days before the Civil War officially ends. Right. So it's coming to an end at this point. So, but I would like to get the board's approval to place this marker on Dinwiddie County Public School land.
Any questions for Mr. Walters? If not, we need a motion.
I move that we approve the Petersburg Battlefield Foundation request to place the marker at the site of the Battle of Dinwiddie Courthouse.
You have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? And that motion carries. Thank you for your work. Budget appropriations.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm here tonight to ask for approval on some supplemental appropriations and adjustments to our fiscal year 2024 budget. This is really a housekeeping type of measure, and really it's a culmination of things that have happened throughout the year between us and the county, and getting our ending balances projected to $0. That is what the county wanted us to do, so therefore we're moving forward with that. They're listed here by fund. I just went down fund by fund, but there is an attachment that's got a little chart that shows the actual amounts for each one of these by fund, and the reasons that we are asking for this. I will say that the total that we're asking for here is a revenue to increase our revenue to $76,722,418 across all funds, and expenditures of $81,901,357. I have listed them here by fund, like I indicated. If you have any questions about a particular fund, I'll be glad to try and answer it. There really is no, we haven't received anything, no major grants or state funding or anything in this.
This is an adjustment to the proposed budget for next year.
No, this is for the current year.
Current
Yeah,
year's
I'll
adjusting
talk
the
about
current
next year in
year's.
just a second, but this is for the current year that we are in, and it really deals mostly with our end of year balances from fiscal year 2023 and how the county has treated those as far as moving forward into this year's budget.
So this is
It's the debt service.
Yeah.
So is this really just a bookkeeping thing?
It's really a housekeeping issue, as what I refer to it, or bookkeeping. It's just to make, at the end of the year, our budget balances must match the county budget balances before we can go into our audit. So we always try to clean that up to make sure that we are all on the same page, so that when the auditors come in, our books match their books. It's very important.
Yes, ma'am. We need approval?
Yes.
I'll make that motion. I move that we approve
Supplemental
the
appropriations.
supplemental appropriation as it's been presented here.
Before we vote, any questions for Ms. Fleming? Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Thank you very much.
Okay, just briefly, we do have a state budget, in case you
Yes.
didn't hear. So we
And
are
it's only
getting.
May.
Yes, so we are getting some small details. Hopefully, we will have better information in the next week. I have been at a conference in Richmond, or some meetings in Richmond this week, and we're, with other finance directors across the state, and we are hoping to get detailed information from the Department of Ed, and hopefully as soon as we can, so that we can then come back and present to you the changes that we would like to make and amend our already adopted fiscal year 25 budget. But the good news is we do anticipate that there will be additional funding in this budget, so we're excited about that. So more to come.
Yes.
Wonderful.
It's great news.
Calendar revisions.
My favorite thing to do.
Hopefully it's the only time we have to
I
do
hope
this
it's the
for
only
next
time.
year. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, dear.
So you saw me several times this school year for calendar revisions, and we would like to kind of rethink how we do this. So this evening, I am bringing to you revisions for the 24-25 calendar. We would like to start front-loading this as much as possible, so I don't have to continually come back throughout the year. So we did pull our calendar committee together on May 1st. That committee is composed of representatives from every school. So it's teachers that we brought this to, and they did appreciate just the forward thinking, so they would kind of know up front what days would be PD days and things of that nature. So the revisions I'm bringing to you this evening are about taking some of our bank time away, and I'm going to explain that and kind of walk you through what that could look like. So the board has previously approved, the former board already approved the 24-25 calendar. So right now the calendar has 175 student days, 1,050 instructional hours. Remember, we are required to have 990 instructional hours. So that gives us 60 bank hours, which equates to about 10 days, okay? So the considerations why we want to front load some of this work, the Virginia Literacy Act, as you know, will require additional professional development for our K-8 instructional staff, really pre-K-8 instructional staff. Right now we have 2 professional development days in the calendar, but just with the magnitude of what teachers, are going to have to do, we would like to build in some more time for them. So part of this revision is building in 2 additional professional development days so that teachers can get some of this required training in. Now, some of that time on PD days would be structured because it needs to be. But some of that time would be for teachers to work on, for our pre-K 5 teachers, it is called letters training, which is about evidence-based reading instruction, the science of reading. Again, it is required training. For our teachers in grades 6 through 8, there are going to be some modules that they have to complete. about the same thing, science of reading, evidence-based instruction. And so we do want to allot them some time to work on that. And then that would also help us to create a better cycle of professional development, which is one of the things, we need to work on. It's one of the recommendations from the special education study, is that focus, that laser-focused PD, which a lot of this time would be about literacy-focused professional development. So that's one request. Revising our calendar to add the proposed days will subtract bank time, but a statement has been added to the draft calendar you have, which we've not had this statement before, but it's always been true, that dates are subject to change due to inclement weather or other emergencies. The superintendent will determine makeup days, and the board retains the right to modify the calendar. So the two professional development days would be September 23rd and February 3rd. And again, the calendar committee agreed that these would be good days to have some additional professional development time. The other days that we're asking to front load, again, this is where I come back to you a lot during the school year, but if we can front load it, it would be easier. April 21st of 2025, which would be a staff student holiday, that's Easter Monday. May 23rd, 2025, is the Friday prior to Memorial Day. May 29th would need to be the last day for students, because May 30th, we would need to make a work day that will be the day for graduation in 2025. That would leave us 30 bank hours, which is about 5 days. So I think the big thing we need to take away from this, I know we love to have the 60 hours of time, but even by front loading this, if emergencies happen, we will have to come back to the plate and say, okay, where are we going to get that time back? So I think we have a lot of opportunities in this calendar to say, okay, if there's 3 snow days, we love that, right? Where can we come back and gain that time back if we needed to? So I think there are still opportunities for that in the calendar. And again, even if you approve these revisions, it still does leave some bank time there, 5 days worth of bank time for emergencies. What are your questions about the proposed revisions this evening?
So we assume there's no snow.
Well, historically, the past few years, we haven't had a whole lot of that. I mean, I understand that, but I think the addition of PD days for our teachers is going to be critical. It really is. There is so much training that is going to come with the Virginia Literacy Act. And I will say from our committee that teachers appreciated us trying to give them more time to work on the things they will have to work on for training. I think many of them are excited about training, but we know that will take time. So, Ms. Pittman, I know it takes away from bank time, but if there is a crazy snowstorm, I think we would have to come back. I would have to come back to you and say, okay, now that we've had X number of snow days, we're going to have to use President's Day as a regular school day, right? We can make those modifications. Or we could say, that March 3rd PD day, maybe that can't happen. Or the Friday before Memorial Day, we need to take that back. So I think some of those days are later in the calendar after snow would have happened. So that is where I believe our opportunity would be, if we have a lot of snow, like in January, that we could come back to the table and say, we've got to give some time back to students to meet that 990 hours of instructional time.
Well, perhaps could we, in interest of making sure parents and teachers understand this, to say if we use more than 5 days, if we have bad inclement weather, then the first day we would gain back would be, could we rank order?
Yeah.
I think we could do that.
Yeah, just so they would be ready to know that you might lose that day if we have big
Here's the order in
snowstorms.
which we're gonna take them back.
Yeah.
If we have to.
It's
Yeah.
always easier to give people a day off.
Than it is to take one back.
Sure, it is. It is. And that's part of the reason we added that disclaimer on the back. Again, we're not the only, sharing is caring is my true belief. And so that disclaimer came from looking at a lot of other districts' calendars. I think we're not the only district that's trying to rethink professional development and how we get that for teachers, but we can definitely rank order days.
Yeah, just so that it's in writing and they can't start bellyaching that, I made plans and I rented a place at the beach, or, the usual that we get. To say, if we have a lot of inclement weather, this is how we'll have to do it.
Ms. Pittman, would you like that under, like that disclaimer that's on the back of the calendar? Would you like that on the calendar, or where would you think that wording would best fit?
I don't know, but I just know
Okay.
that if we tell them ahead, that we'll have less problems with it. I think on this calendar somewhere.
Sure, okay.
I mean, that's just my personal opinion, but.
I understand
I
that.
think
but we
it could
can-
be we'll figure it out.
We can figure that out. I can work with Dr. Weston on that piece, and before we publish this, we can definitely rank order some days with, again, I just think that still a disclaimer of any days can come back, but I do understand rank ordering. You never know what weather will happen or what other emergencies may occur that would, yeah, and we do understand that.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I think it's good to give the teachers that time.
Yeah.
To have that day sort of peaceful, they can work, but
Training,
Yeah, the training piece
Yeah, I
will be very
absolutely
important.
Agree, because we always had professional development, and you went through all these workshops, and then you got back to school, and you just went back in your classroom to do your thing. And if you could implement it, fine, but if you had difficulties implementing it, there was nowhere to go to talk with anyone else about it or get ideas. So I think that's great.
The collaboration is important, and I will just say on top of that, this school year was the first school year we've had a professional development plan, but we realized we need some revisions to that too. So part of our work that we know we have this summer is revising that professional development plan for that true cycle, Dr. Pearson, like you're speaking of. What does the true cycle of PD look like? Where part of it's the training, but part of it is, okay, now how do you plan together to implement and integrate that into your classrooms?
Any other questions about the?
She is asking for your approval.
I am asking for your approval, and we will definitely rank order those days before posting anything on the website for parents and teachers.
Madam Chair, I move that we accept the revised school year calendar for 24-25.
24-25.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you. And are any new business, Ms. Golson? Okay. Are the citizens signed up to speak? No? Okay. And board member comments, and then we will do student comments and board member comments, and superintendent, and then we will re-adjourn to closed session, so we won't be actually adjourning. But I'm gonna start down here with you, Amani.
Well, I just wanted to start by saying that I really enjoyed seeing some of the reports that we have been presented today. I love how detailed they were, how thorough they were, and you can really tell that they care and that they're really trying to make sure that we give our community the best that we can. So I really enjoyed seeing that. And then also, I wanted to go back to my earlier comment talking about recognitions and going out and seeing the good things that are being done. Me and Miss Benjamin actually went to Sutherland's Math, Science, and Literacy Night, and we made these. She has hers and I have mine, and it was just a magnet activity where the students can, move it around and see how it is, and you could just really tell that there was a lot of care and thought into the activity. It was very immersive, but students also learned, and it was very fun as well. So I also wanted to acknowledge the good things that my home elementary school was doing. And like I said, and like I always say, I really enjoyed this meeting. I really enjoyed being here, and I'm just so happy that I got the chance to have this opportunity.
Thank you. Jonathan?
With it being my last meeting and I haven't attended a lot this year due to soccer and a lot, it really does pain me that, this is the last meeting that I get to attend. But I definitely enjoyed seeing that we're still moving forward, whether it's in our studies or all our research that we're doing in order to keep our community moving. All the new people we're bringing in, and everyone we had to say goodbye to. But I know they'll be happy as well. But it just brings me joy to see that we're still going to be moving forward. And I can't wait to come back.
Yes. And Jonathan is heading to be a Hokie.
To be a Hokie. And what do you? Yes. You can tell the Hokies, the people now. What are you studying, Jonathan? Do you want to tell them what you're going to be studying?
I'll be studying civil engineering at Virginia Tech.
Mr. Brown?
Yeah, really, really great meeting. There were a lot of great things that happened, a lot of things to be proud of. I've said it before, and I'll definitely repeat it, that being on the board, having to sometimes take I'm never taking my citizen hat off. Always putting on my school board hat on when I join these meetings. It gives me a sense of pride that I've never really had in the county. Always proud, of my roots and just the people that surrounded me in Dinwiddie County. But actually seeing the mechanisms that make their county run, they give me a sense of pride that I wouldn't have been able to find without, serving my community in this capacity. And so it also forces me to appreciate the servants and leaders that we do have in this community, whether they be pastors or someone in school administration or our cafeteria workers, anyone that's making our county run and particularly our schools run. I have a profound appreciation for, and I hope that it shows in my leadership and service to the community. Two people that came to mind, especially with the retirements, were Mr. Burnett and then Miss Lewis as well. Mr. Burnett, there are so many things that I could possibly say, and I wish he was here. It was like a stab to the heart. Like when everyone was like, starting to leave, I was like, oh my goodness, no, I've got stuff to say. But I know that he can probably like feel me talking about him. But yeah, he was such a great teacher to have, and especially with my siblings as well, and everyone else in the county. And someone had mentioned that he's very popular on Facebook or on social media. That was a very, very true comment, because being on Facebook and like seeing all the students that I went to school with, saying, oh, this is something specific and very niche and particular to Mr. Burnett that happened, just being able to just think about those things. For me, it was maybe 15 or so years ago that I was at Sutherland, but nonetheless, just knowing that like all students had that universal experience with him as a teacher is so profound, and that's so unique to Dinwiddie County. And again, that's where that sense of pride comes from. And Ms. Lewis, as well as my counselor, when I was in the middle school, there were conversations I was able to have with her that I couldn't have had with anyone else in my life at that time, anyone else in the community. And for her to be someone that, maybe didn't look like me or, have the same background as me, but still be such a listening ear and compassionate heart, again, that's so unique to Dinwiddie County, and that's what gives me that sense of pride. And so it makes me want to do more and more and more for the place that I call home, the place that we call home. Also, Kayla, with the artwork that she did, there was a comment she made towards the end where she had thanked the board for choosing the piece, but I wanted to make the small correction that, that was first place for the region. So it's not Dinwiddie County Public School Board that made the decision alone. Prince George, Hopewell, Petersburg. We had places like I'm sure like Surrey, Sussex, whomever that were represented there. All of those school boards, said this artwork coming from a high schooler in Dinwiddie County should be first place, should be a blue ribbon piece. So again, that sense of pride. I think it's just something that again I'm feeling for the first time, and I hope it's contagious. And I'm seeing some heads nodding, so I'm sure that everyone else here has felt something that again is a first for me. So I'm going to be as seasoned as you all come soon. One of the things that I had wanted to mention, as Jonathan had pointed out, this is from the students' perspective, one of the last major school board meetings that we have before we go into the 2024-2025 school year. And the things that we've had discussions on and is stories that I've had to, that I've had the privilege of listening to, and the concerns that have been brought to me from citizens that I truly, truly care about and want to see the best for over the last 130, 140 years. 130, 140 days that we've been on the school board. There are a lot of those things that are easily preventative. They're universal experiences. Yesterday night, I had sat at Richmond City Council's meeting, and there were a lot of things that the teachers from Richmond City Public Schools have presented to their city council. And I'm like, that's happening here. That's happening everywhere. It's a universal experience, a universal concern and issue. And then that's when I realized truly that we have a very ripe opportunity to say we're all facing the same issues, but Dinwiddie can come out on top and be very unique in the way that we resolve those issues and the solutions that we provide. And I think what's going to make our solutions and our resolutions very dynamic is by working with the community in ways that we've never seen before. Sitting at a city council meeting, you've got the council people over there, you've got everyone that they're representing to the back, and there seems to be that disconnect. And this summer, I believe, truly provides us an opportunity to provide that front doorstep leadership that the issues of schooling today require and that the community desires and wants. And that's one of the things that I had told people that I would do in my leadership and service to the county is serve from their front door. Come to their doorstep and not say, hey, come to the school board office and that's where I'll talk to you. And so that's my commitment. I have already laid out a very organized and formulated plan on things that I'm going to do during the summer to go door-to-door knocking, talk to parents, especially with it being the summer, being able to hopefully talk to some students that I'm serving, because I think that's what we require. And again, that's what the community is demanding and craving. And I think, again, when we meet with families and that dynamic intimacy, and then allow that to inform the solutions that we come up with for the 2024-2025 school year and beyond, preventative solutions, I think, again, I believe that we are going to be leading the charge as to what needs to be done for schooling just in the state and the region and, in the nation. Again, we're all experiencing the same issues, but I've yet to see a school system that said, we're going to work with our community in ways that we've never worked before. And I believe that we have school board members that's your passion, that's your desire. So join me when I go door knocking and talk to parents and families. Even if they're not there, I'll try to leave something so that they know what we're doing here in the county. And I think that will be so appreciated. And again, we'll be able to be this beacon that school systems around us can say, that's what we should be doing. And that's what I want to say. I want to say 4 years from now that we burnt a trail and, tread something that people can say, okay, that's the plan that we need to follow. What Dinwiddie County is doing. And I think we had that opportunity and we have the right people and all of you that are supporting our schools, whether as a parent or personnel, I don't think you ever take those two hats off. So those things that you do simultaneously, I know that was very long-winded, but I'm again, that pride and that passion are definitely there. And so that, informed everything that I just said. And again, I'm looking forward to this summer and just being able to work with the community in very, very dynamic ways.
Thank you. Ms. Benjamin?
She's tired. She said she's tired.
It's past some of us is
Congratulations to
bedtime.
all the honorees, the students who've gotten awards, and to all of our retirees, and especially to Mr. Roberts, because Mr. Roberts is at Sunnyside, and that's in District 4. So congratulations to you. And Mr. Roberts, you remember that the sweetest fruit is that fruit somebody said that you labor for. And so congratulations again, many blessings. And to all the teachers and staff, since this is the last major meeting of this school year, we appreciate you, all that you've done. And I realize, and all of us on this board realize that it's not an easy job, but it's a job that we love. And we continue to do it. And we make differences every day. We don't see it, we don't hear it. But often down the road, they say, we hear about you in Dinwiddie. And I have attended so many activities that have gone on within the last month. I met Miss Pittman somewhere one day, and she said, I can't go there today, you go, and I'm going to be over here. So that's what we did. But Miss Pittman, that was the best place you sent me to, was over to the park that day, to the World Prayer Day. It was the best one yet, because she had another engagement, she couldn't go. So she said, well, we just split up. So that's what we did. And we hear good things about Dinwiddie and about Dinwiddie schools. And not only in Dinwiddie County, when I go other places, they tell me the good things. And that's what I choose to talk about, the good things that not us, but all of us collectively are doing in Dinwiddie County. Many blessings for a great summer.
Thank you. Mr. Walker.
Mr. Brown, you said how many days did you say this is? 130, 140. I think this is the longest agenda we've had yet. So this is a record. But my favorite part of
This is not why
the
we're gonna be a beacon. We're gonna be a beacon for
my favorite part of the agenda every time we come, whether it's long or short, is that one that says recognitions.
Yes.
And that's a joy for me. And at the outset of the recognitions today, Coach Rogerson made a comment about the women's wrestling, or the lady girls, or we call it girls, women, the girls wrestling program. He said that we are ahead of the curve in this. And my thoughts immediately went to when I was very young, much younger than I am now, and I was a student in schools here in the county. The Walmart Corporation bought some land just up from our home place. And they built the distribution center on the north end of the county. And when they built that, across the highway from the distribution center, they put up a water tower, and they wrote on the water tower, "A step ahead, Dinwiddie County." And that was the butt of a lot of jokes in my childhood. And I remember thinking people are making fun of us for putting that up there. But here's the truth. Maybe we weren't back then, but I think we're getting there. And I think the way that we get there is by having hard conversations and facing hard truths. And Mr. Walters, I want to say I applaud what you're doing with the operations side, because what you're doing is having hard conversations. You're looking at stuff that it's easier to look the other way and just say, hey, we'll sweep this under the rug and pretend like everything. Sometimes we have to admit this could be done better. And so I really appreciate that kind of leadership. And I think that's what will make us ahead of the curve. That's what will put us ahead of the curve. And that's what will get us to that place that Mr. Brown is talking about, where people will look at us and say, hey, they're doing things we've never thought of. But it starts with having difficult conversations. And unfortunately, though, the difficult conversations don't happen during the recognitions. Sometimes they happen behind closed doors. Sometimes they happen over lunch. Sometimes they happen when you knock on a door in the neighborhood. Sometimes they happen on the side of a baseball field when a parent comes up and says, I don't like what's going on in my kid's school. Sometimes they happen, unfortunately, on social media. But I think we can't run from those conversations. We have to embrace those conversations and then work towards finding solutions. We had a lot of retired, and I'm much older than Mr. Brown here, but Mr. Burnett taught me, well, I can't say taught me music because I am not a musician. I sat in Mr. Burnett's music class, yeah. But I saw him, I never, Mr. Rapp retired, I guess, here. And when I saw him, I thought of George Rapp, his dad. And George Rapp was my principal when I was at Midway Elementary. And because my mom worked for him, he was kind of like a bit of a mentor for me. He coached me in football at one point. And George Rapp used to say this all the time: quickness rules the world. Quickness rules the world. And when I was young, I thought he was talking about quick feet on a football field. But the truth is, he was talking about people who do stuff before anybody else does it are the people that rule the world. And we're not going to do stuff before anybody else if we don't tackle the tough conversations. And so I think we're moving in the right direction. I'm excited about where we're going, but we got a ways to go. But I'm full of pride. This meeting was an inspiring meeting, but it also is a step towards greater things. So I'm excited.
Thank you. Dr. Pearson.
I don't want to say that I'm amazed, because amazed sounds like I didn't expect it. And since I have been one in attendance at school board meetings and then been on the board, I would say I initially was amazed. Now I'm just pleased that every time I come to a meeting, we have all these wonderful presentations by our students and staff members, that we have all these various clubs and organizations who have been recognized not only locally, but throughout the state and nationally. To have teachers who have worked for so many years, especially that kindergarten teacher
47.
couldn't possibly have been in the classroom for 47 years unless she was 3 when she started. To have put in all of those years, almost 600 of them in Surrey, shows real dedication. And then to have been a history government major and taught history, to look at where you are realigning your history curriculum, which used to always give me such a headache every time the state said they were changing it, because there were certain courses I just didn't believe you should put in the 5th grade, and civics was the one they always wanted to stick there. To do Dinwiddie County history, start these children off with a true love of where they are, where they're from, what's so great about here, so that when they do go to all these other places, they can tell everybody, well, I'm from Dinwiddie, let me tell you about it, because they will know about their history. So just thank you all for your continued efforts, and I am so proud just to be sitting in front of you. Thank you.
Thank you. I am particularly excited about our new program with the Homegrown, and that we're looking to recruit teachers early, and I think that is our best way to try to solve that problem. And of course, we need to try to figure out how to do bus drivers as well. Excited about the continuation of the tennis team's outstanding record, and also the new girls wrestling team has done so well.
Right.
I learned something tonight in history that we can all blame Mr. Taft for the invention of taxes, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Income tax. However, there's a good reason that we pay income taxes, support the things that we do. Certainly thanks to Ms. Golson and Ms. Elder for all that they do for all the different entities, and they are shining stars around us always, as well as many others. Our gifted programs continues to shine, which is very, very appropriate for the students, and a wonderful effort by the 6th graders who won that award. So thank you. Dr. Weston.
I just think it's all been said this evening. I just want to thank you all for your comments this evening. I would just say, how lucky are we, right? How lucky are we to serve in a community in which we all care about young people, and that we care about this community and we care about one another. And I'm going to tell you, I mean, it doesn't happen everywhere. And I do believe that we are a school district that is poised for greatness, and that we can be that beacon across the Commonwealth and across this nation. And I'm so excited about all the initiatives I heard this evening. I'm too a history major, so I'm very excited about that. We've talked about it for a long time. It's so great to see all that start to happen. And I'm just so appreciative to work alongside each and every one of you every single day. And I just would be amiss if I didn't say to Davis Roberts how much it's been a pleasure to lead alongside you. It's no secret that Sunnyside loves Davis Roberts. Dinwiddie Elementary School loved Davis Roberts. And so it's a pleasure. It's been a pleasure. And I just want to make sure that's part of our public record this evening. It's not the end, because we still have a lot of school. Remember, we said the last day of school isn't until the 31st, and you still have a few more days with us. But I just want to say that publicly, that it's been a pleasure to learn from you and to lead alongside you. So thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Yes.
At this point, we need a motion to return to closed session.
I move that we adjourn to closed session.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much. Thank you for those